Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Agsef 2023 conference. Before we start, there's a lot to discuss today. Everyone who is here, we would like to start with an open prayer. So we'll have engineer today. Let's move on with prayer and then we'll start.
Business owners. God, thank you this morning for the praise of God. Thank you for keeping us. Thank you for bringing us here safely. We ask you as we begin this meeting, presence to go with us. Jesus. Jesus, our soul.
Thank you very much. To take us right further into today's communication, I would like to just put my opinion for this year's conference. And to do so, I would first like to recognize and distinguish guests who are seated. Mr. Lamshi, good to see you. Mr. Jumbo, good to see you. And our darling, good to see you. Great to see you. Many more distinguished guests who are here. So, good morning to distinguished guests. I take this opportunity to recognize the heads of state, giants of industries, members of the other distinguished ladies and gentlemen representing the elites of the African agro-economic space, both present physically and participating online. A special congratulations to His Excellency the Lagos State Governor on the launch of the Lagos Rail Mass Blue Line. Of course, it commenced operation September 3rd, 4th, 2023. We celebrate infrastructural development like this because it's an indicator of our desire to build our dear continent, one city at a time, one sector at a time. Again, congratulations to all those in Lagos State. Yesterday, we addressed the issues surrounding feeding Africa and what is required to address poverty and eliminate hunger and malnutrition in Africa. Today, we want to look at the second phase of this proposed transformation to turn Africa into a continent that will sustainably feed more. The agricultural transformation agenda promulgated by the African Development Bank in 2015 delineates two specific goals, which are considered to be the second phase of this transformation agenda. They are focused on Africa becoming a net food exporter and rising in relevance to the top of the value chain so that we can enjoy competitive advantage globally. Firstly, I must now take this opportunity to remind us that for many African countries, choosing to operate a mono economy, there has been a hyper focus on one or two commodities which are valued at the global stage, such as crude oil and oil palm. These have undoubtedly in the past generated good revenue for us as Africans, but these returns have significantly dwindled. In many African countries, we have been robbed of the opportunity to significantly grow our GDP because of this hyper. However, the beauty of investment in the agriculture and agro-allied products is that in building a mono economy on food, we still not have the same effect on building a mono economy on other oil products or oil palm products. Because if we focus on agricultural industry, it has a ripple effect on economic growth that may not necessarily be immediately apparent, but in the long term, we will see the value across all value chains in our continent. Before we delve into this second phase goals, this is what I want us to draw attention to. A focus on agriculture means that the employment rate increases. It means that in agriculture, even if we focus on the mechanized form, it will definitely require human resources. And in addition, an agro-focused economy increases the opportunities in the manufacturing sector, because the goal is not just to prioritize produce in itself, but also to expand the manufacturing of food-based products for retail purposes, both locally and for further exportation. Additionally, in order to cater to the production of secondary commodities, as well as farming machinery, there will need to be an increase in the manufacturing sector. Mechanization of agriculture will also benefit innovation in agro-technologies and increase the need for unique financing to accommodate farming grants and credit facilities. Inevitably, the financial sector will also benefit from the interest of those credit facilities. A focus on agroeconomy by virtue of all the things we have discussed so far will definitely increase the standard of living for us all. Now, let's look at the third goal promulgated by the ATA, which is that Africa becomes a net food exporter. The key thing is to identify and create new supply chains to ensure that there's a clear trajectory from the farmer's harvest to the end users, both locally and internationally. This is where I want to speak to entrepreneurs in our midst. It is extremely important for those of us who are agro entrepreneurs to widen their horizon on how we truly do business. There was an interesting article in the Guardian newspaper, which could form a case study for innovative thinking as an entrepreneur in the agro sector. This article showcased a Korea business positioning itself as the #1 agro-allied airline in Nigeria. The company had partnered with the government of Anambra State in Nigeria to ensure that the crops produced indigenously have been positioned to be received in a supply chain connected to Europe. The CEO of the company led this approach, or he had approached several African governments, but only Anambra State was initially very receptive. This project involved both the public and the private stakeholders, and of course involved this prominent air courier. Nigeria's leading aviation handling company and corporate societies representing farmers' interests were also a part of this conversation. Although the company was an air courier, innovative thinking created an opportunity for the farmers in that state to partake in capacity building and be properly certified. This certification led to a 3-year contract for the trained farmers to supply their goods to supermarket chains in Europe and beyond. This is the level of impact that one creative entrepreneur achieved. Imagine the level of success we can gain if this thinking can permeate the entire continent. Agro entrepreneurs must begin to think strategically about what will make African produce acceptable as an international standard and form partnerships to facilitate whatever certifications are required, like the global gap. These are required to achieve this goal. Every roadblock must be adequately addressed, whether at private level or at public level. Already, there are several African countries that are already well on their way to succeeding in this, and their counterparts can, of course, learn from them. Currently, Kenya is the leading African nation with the highest number of global GAP certifications, which is a requirement to export food and food-based products into Europe and European countries. Agro entrepreneurs, you must begin to think about collaborative efforts with the state and mutually beneficial alliances so that we could begin to open the door for Africa to become a net exporter. For the agro entrepreneur, the next step is to begin to look beyond profit and think legacy. In Africa, becoming a sustainable net food exporter, we must pay attention that we do not treat our soil as just a money-making tool, but we must respect it as a resource to be stewarded transgenerationally, so that as Africa moves forward, we can of course continue to meet the demand of our food requirements without necessarily depleting our soil. The next point is agro entrepreneurs must leverage on innovative technology to ensure that the farming practices, manufacturing methods, and forms of transportation being employed are increasingly efficient. This ensures that the demand of food both locally and globally is not affected by the outflow of food and food products to the foreign market. They must also leverage the power of specialization and niche down. Perhaps the agro industry could operate in sub-sectors with one sector focusing on food-based products, other sector dealing with internal demand, and other sector focusing on goods for exportation. You, as an agripreneur, are called to refocus your business efforts so that you can contribute to the success of the third goal underpinning Operation Feed Africa, Operation Feed the World. Your agribusiness could leverage technology in greenhouse technology, in innovative practices, in organic farming, in climate change technology, and tools to reduce the prevalence of pests or products, which of course increase the lifespan of perishable food. Agro entrepreneurs must play their part to ensure that Operation Feed Africa, Operation Feed the World is powered by high-level thinking and technology. This is imperative to ensure that while we feed our indigenous population, the continent can expand its capacity to undertake the game-changing role of feeding the world. Lastly, we look at the fourth pillar, which is ensuring that Africa is positioned at the top of the export-oriented value chain, where it now exercises comparative advantages with other key players in the world. Here, I will speak to two major steps that we can take to ensure the final step in Operation Feed Africa and Feed the World can be materialized. Firstly, the implementation of the Pan-African Agriculture Enterprise Processing Zone, the AEPZ, on the continent. This entails designating strategic areas as regional processing zones that are solely dedicated to agricultural production and creating symbiosis with every key player in the agro-allied and agricultural sector. These Pan-African AEPZs must be in strategic locations of importance to the end goal of exportation. They must be close to airports, they must be close to seaports, they must also be close to regional roadways and borders to ensure that everything necessary to promote exportation of African produce is in place to aid the final goal. In Lagos, Nigeria, the Lekki Free Trade Zone is a useful example. This will serve as a template for the continent to specifically build out agricultural enterprise processing zones. This would ensure that everything required for the transmission of African produce to the international market is in one centralized location to increase efficiency, efficacy, and quality control. The inevitable result is that in a decade or more, Africa's agricultural sector will have risen to the top of the value chain, and it can finally compete at a comparable rate with the GDP growth of other sectors. The last piece of puzzle is the right policy environment. Key policy interventions include climate change interventions, innovative agricultural financing, land reforms to ensure inclusivity for both male and female farmers, accessible insurance for crops, creation of cooperative societies, and of course, young farmers. This is to ensure that the farmers are presented in key decisions and policy reforms strategically focused on harnessing the potential of cash crops like cocoa and oil palm. It becomes clearer that Africa has a blueprint to ensure that it can position itself as the food basket of the world. Like you and I look forward to hearing from the speakers and panelists at the Agsef Conference as exactly the blueprint we will need to truly achieve Operation Feed Africa, Operation Feed the World. I will leave you with one of the biggest things I believe all of us African entrepreneurs, whether we're in the agro sector or any other sector, one of the things we must personalize, and this is what I call the African dream. My African dream. I have a dream that one day Africa will become one big nation that can compete comparatively with global economies, this time as a superpower, harnessing our resources, both mineral, material, natural, and human, to produce immeasurable wealth, but this time stewarded by active yet accountable leaders who can deliver an Africa where every African descendant is a treasure. This is my African dream. And indeed, I want to welcome you to this year's African Government Stakeholders Engagement Forum. Thank you for coming.
That was a very beautiful speech. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I believe that you've heard from Madam President this morning. Now, in case you're not aware, this event started yesterday and it was really insightful because we had different speakers from different parts of Africa share insights and action points on how Africa can become the food basket of the world. Now, if you can recall with me, in the year 2021, the Russian-Ukraine war broke out and affected the cost of wheat. And of course, it made the commodity very scarce. But then and again, I strongly believe that if Africa at that time had taken that as an opportunity to be able to fill in the gap, probably by now we'll have been moving closer to that goal of being the food, basket of the world. But I mean, all hope is not lost. We still have that, that journey to begin. Because Kofi Annan once said that if we get agriculture right in Africa, where most of the people are working in that sector, well, it will help to boost development. And not only that, we're able to secure food and nutrition and then move to other areas. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you're welcome to day 2 of the African Government Stakeholders Engagement Forum 2023. I believe that deserves a round of applause. All right, okay. My name is Jade Sola Adewodun, but for the purpose of this event, please call me Lady Jade, and I'm going to be serving as a moderator vis-a-vis your compare for today's event. And without further ado, I'd like to bring up our keynote speaker in the person of Mr. Dapo Olakunleyin. Just before I bring him up, I would like to read up his profile for this beautiful morning. Now, Mr. Olakunleyin John Oladapo has a Bachelor of Agricultural degree in Agricultural Extension and Rural Sociology from the year 1988. I mean, that's a very long time. Now, Mr. Olakunleyin has 2 master's degrees, one in Information and Communication Management from the National Open University of Nigeria, and other in Sociology from University of Lagos, in addition to a diploma in Water Management and Crop Production from Galilee College, Nazareth, Israel. He started his working experience as an agri officer, village extension worker with the World Bank assisted Lagos State Agricultural Development Project on October 22nd, 1990, and was absorbed into civil service with under the Ministry of Agri and Cooperatives, where Agricultural Development Project became a scheduled parastatal. Now, having obtained training in agricultural best practices, Mr. Olakunleyin rose through the ranks, serving in various capacities, such as the village extension agent in Ibejuleki, the block agricultural extension supervisor, Ikeja, Ojo, and Alimosho blocks, several, leading several parastatals all over Lagos, and also working with the World Bank Assistant National FADAMA Development Project. All of this happened in the year 2017. He is a member of Agricultural Extension Society of Nigeria and a senior professional member of the Institute of Information Management Africa. He has authored and co-authored several agricultural specialized reports at the National FADAMA Development Project Lagos State Office, and of course, Lagos State Agri Development Authority and the Ministry of Agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, all over Africa, please welcome with me Mr. Olakunleyin Oladapo. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning everywhere. We are looking at me or hearing me. In addition, I am the present General Manager of Lagos State Coconut Development Authority. And let me quickly say that this authority is perhaps one of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa, where you have an agency dedicated to a particular agricultural enterprise. which is coconut. In other climes, in other states or the federation, you have agricultural development authority or project which captures everything. But in Lagos, because of the importance that we attach to coconut, we have an agency dedicated for development of coconut in Lagos State. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm honored to stand before you today as we delve into a crucial topic that affects the very heart of Africa's future. That is the state of African agriculture, a vision for the next 30 years, and the role of agricultural extension services. Agriculture has been the livelihood of our continent, providing livelihoods to millions and serving as a critical driver of economic development. You agree with me that the number of employment that we have in agri-space is much in Africa. Yet, with all this, the sector is facing formidable challenges, from climate change to limited access to modern technologies, and as well as food security concern. You will now wonder that we say that we are known for agriculture, and at the same time we are facing food security concerns. I will try to explore the current state of African agriculture, cast our gaze into the future, and underscore the pivotal role that agri-extension services need to play in the future. Like I said, Africa is very, very vulnerable to impacts of climate change, with the erratic rainfall patterns that we are facing now, increase in temperature affecting crop seed and livestock. And even if we have greenhouse, we have everything, even if we deploy best of the best technology, agriculture is still 70% weather dependent. You still need to rely on weather at particular point in the value chain. If not during the production, it may be during when you are transporting, when you are evacuating it from the farm. You still need weather one way or the other. And the climate change is affecting the agriculture. Of course, modern access to farm technology, poor soil health, and inadequate infrastructure. These are some of the challenges that have been bedeviling agriculture in Africa and in Nigeria and Africa in general. Food insecurity is a harsh reality for millions across the continent, despite the vast agricultural potential. Moreover, African farmers are still struggling, even commercial farmers, to access local and international markets, the credit. There are so many challenges that the farmers are facing. Going forward, the linkage between the research and extension and farmers are also very, very weak in Africa. Most of the time we don't consider this. But when you look at African farmers, the research is on its own, the farmers are on their own, and the extension services. We are not working harmoniously, and it's a big challenge. And that brings me to what we call extension. As a mini bearing phase, agricultural extension and agricultural extension is an approach that aims at providing uninformed farmers and their household with relevant information about new farming practices and techniques that can boost agricultural production and improve living standards. That definition, one may think that is talking to the peasant farmers, that is not talking to commercial farmers. But no, it has moved beyond that. It has moved beyond that. As peasant farmers need extension services, so are also the commercial farmers that we have across Africa's need extension farmers. Going by the former standard, agricultural extension adopts educational techniques in rendering assistance to farmers. The education assistant or advice so rendered enable farmers to develop socially and understand how they can make agriculture a lasting source of substantial income. You will agree with me that it is beyond subsistence farmers, even the commercial farmers. We need essential services as a major input in order to improve our productivity. Of course, we say that technology without philosophy is a disaster. So even if you say you are going on a commercial farming, you still need some social element. What to produce, how to produce it, what is your target audience, who is your market, the environment you are operating at. There's no way you can remove these are social elements that even as a commercial farmer, you need to carry them along in your production or processing or whatever you are doing within the agricultural space. So the extension services will color the behavior of both commercial farmers and peasant farmers to know what to produce, how to produce it, and what to do. Well, in global consumption, I want to say here that even in developed countries, the Israel, the US, they don't joke with agriculture extension services because they know it is a critical input that farmers need. Going forward, I want us also to know that agriculture extension is as old as more than 200 years ago. It's a very old concept. And the Americans, they don't joke with it, with that component. Because there's one thing for you to have all factors of production. But how do you combine them? Even labor. I know a lot of farmers in Nigeria now. One of the major challenges we are facing is farm labor. They are not there again. So these are areas that agriculture extension can come in and see how we navigate through some of these challenges. So agriculture extension goes a great length to involve the transfer of scientific knowledge to farmers and ensure that they deploy those knowledge effectively. So it's beyond just the skill, but even the knowledge. If you have money you want to invest, you still need extension services to guide you. But I'm not talking of consultancy services, which is quite different. When we look at, and I'm not talking of information dissemination. When we look at our internet now, when you go online, you can get a lot of information through YouTube on how to do this, how to do that. But at the same time, you still need human elements somewhere to tell you how to do it. And that's why they didn't joke with extension services. No, they have developed it beyond how we are doing it in Africa, but we're going to get there by God's grace. In this regard, agriculture extension has gained grants everywhere in the world as a helpful approach to solving farmers' problem. There's no doubt about that. So I will quickly go into the roles of agriculture extension. We all know it. Disseminating information, raising the standard of living of farmers through effective, giving them effective information, giving them distinct insight into how farming problems can be solved, helping farmers to connect with one another, networking among the farmers. These are the things that the extension services do. In Nigeria, extension services have transformed from colonial era to the present situation that we have ourselves. We have the type of extension during the colonial era post-independent, where we face cocoa, oil palm, granite, face it, and the extension service targets towards the cash crop production. And what they are doing is still these peasant farmers that are cultivating cocoa, cultivating oil palm, and the target is for the export producer. We moved from that era to the extension of during the oil boom era. We redirected our extension. After that, there was crisis. We need to retrace ourselves, and we move into the era of what we call multi-ADP system of extension. And that's where I want to focus more attention. That is what we are using now, this multi-ADPs, which is otherwise known as refills, type of extension. The acronym is Research Extension Farmers Input Linkage System. That is bringing the three together. What research is doing, get it to extension, get it to farmer, and making necessary inputs available. When we are talking of inputs now, we are talking of all the infrastructure, not only fertilizers and rest. We are talking of everything that we make farmers produce. And when you look at that refills, you see that there's extension component, there's extension component, there's research component, and farmers component. It is within the ADP system that this component works. So the research will give the technology to the farmers, to the extension, and the extension will pass it on to the farmers. And of course, the farmers also, if they are the challenges they are undergoing, they will take it, the extension will take it, give it back to the research. And the cycle goes on like that. Now, I'm sad to tell us that presently in Nigeria, that refill system is very, very, very weak. It's very weak as a result of lack of funding, as a result of lack of understanding of the roles of each and everybody within that space, as a result of the competition, unhealthy competition among these stakeholders, especially the extension and the research. So these are not well defined. Now, going forward, we need to do certain things if we are looking into the future. First of all, we need to redefine who is a farmer. That's the first thing. We need to sit down and define who is a farmer. To me, my definition of farmer is whoever is involved in food value chain system. That's my own definition of a farmer, not necessarily the other farmer that is producing. Because if you don't, the ultimate of farming, the ultimate of that, the farming enterprise is to ensure that either the food or the product gets to the user. Even if it is industry, the objective is from the farm. It gets to the user in wholesome sum, whether it's the final consumer or another industry that wants to use it. So when you are now looking at that chain, if you isolate the farmer to that, the one that is producing or processing along the chain, you're going to miss a lot of things. So that is my own definition of who is the farmer, and that should be the beginning if you want to look at the future, so that we see the transporter that is taking your food, your item, you see him as part of your value chain actors, not just it's a transporter. No, at that particular point that is taking your items to the market, I tell you, he is a farmer. The market women in Okiodo, they a lot of things. They are doing repackaging. You cannot remove them from being a farmer. They are also farmers in that space. We need to address them. And that is the first thing we need to do if you want to if you are looking at the future. So that by the time we redefine who is a farmer, it will color the way we handle a lot of things along the chain. Thank you very much. Then, when we look at the population of Africa, we are projecting 2.5 billion by year 2050. And when we look at that year 2050, this 30 year that we are looking at is within. The implication is that we need to get our act right. We need to get our act right. And it is surprising that Ukraine at war and Russia, they are the two countries at war, and they are still feeding some part of the world. So first, we need to redefine agriculture of the farmer. What is a farmer? Who is a farmer? And we need to encompass all these people, all those stakeholders that we consider farmer in designing and moving forward in terms of what we do in agriculture. Now, I talked about the refills that is weak. Of course, the types of extension services we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, can absolutely not work when we are looking at the future. This is where you have a lot of things that is happening in the technology space. The extension needs to deploy most of these technologies in reaching out to farmers. And in doing this, first, we need to strengthen our institutions. That's the first thing. Apart from redefining who is a farmer, we need to strengthen our institutions. Strengthen them in terms of funding, in terms of giving them clear mandate. What to do? We have Cocoa Research Institute, we have Rubber Research Institute, we have NIFO, which is responsible for oil palm in Benin and not. We need to strengthen these institutions so that they will perform their roles they're supposed to in terms of research. They will be able to move along with the modern trend of things in agriculture. Apart from that, the extension services, we need to strengthen it too. All the ADPs in the country, we need to strengthen them and redefine them, their roles on what they are going to do. Secondly, there's need to train and retrain the personnel, the agri personnel. It is not enough for you to say that because you are bred agri, that you are whatever to be an extension agent. No, I'm proud to say that I trained like an apprentice when I finished university. When ATP was in the 90s, they held us by hand. This is how to talk to commercial farmers. This is how to talk to peasant farmers. Each of them have different languages. What the commercial farmer wants to hear is quite different from what the peasant farmer wants to hear. What the youth wants to hear is quite different from what somebody in the middle age as a farmer wants to hear. This, we need to see how we build the capacity of our extension officers along to meet the demand, the current demand of what the definition of our farmers need. In addition, look, I told you initially that we need to define who is a farmer. So we need now to train our extension beyond crop production, beyond processing. What is happening? Like I said, those market, the food vendors, those that are doing food vendors, the food vendors across many urban areas, they are critical factors. They are critical factors in food value chain. You may produce your food very well. You may produce your food very well. If the woman there that is cooking it for the final consumer, if not taking good care of it, if anything wrong with it along the way, and the customer complains, definitely they will not. If that particular vendor will not buy from that farmer because he wouldn't know that this is his problem. This is the one that caused the problem. He will not buy factory. So that's it for us. Also, when we redefine who is a farmer, our extension will also must be retrained to meet all the stakeholders along the food value chain beyond what we are looking at. Then we need to go e-extension. Despite that, there is still need for the extension services to have one-on-one interaction with the farmer. We cannot shy away from going e-extension when most farmers are using YouTube. But let me tell you us, as a trained and certified extension officer, if you go on YouTube, that this is how to plant coconut, let me give you an example. You cannot get everything on YouTube. Definitely, you can't get everything on YouTube. You still need a guidance. You still need somebody to tell you. These are some of the everything has trade secrets. Everything has trade secrets. So, for example, in coconut, I'll give you a practical example. In coconut, when you want to do seedlings, normally seed, the simple rule of thumb is any seed that you want to plant, if you put it in water, the one that floats, you know that one is right. It's as simple. That's what we need to know, that after you buy the seed, once you put it in water, The one that floats, definitely, those ones are not, they cannot germinate. But when it comes to coconut, the seed is big one that you want to plant. If you put everything in water, it will not float. When I became the GM, I was asking my attendants, as illiterate as they are, you know the Bible seed notes that you want to plant. They tell me, oh God, I said we're supposed to do test. He said, what test? It is just by simple the sand of water inside the coconut. That's what they add. They are getting close to 95% efficiency in terms of what we are planting and the germination percentage. Or when I picked test, this one we are looking at it was the Bible. You say, okay, this one will not be Bible. I want to pick it. So these are the things we need to, even the farm attendants, how are we talking to them? Is for me to deploy to our attendant. The people that we do the thing and some practical. There must be a way of reaching out to them. You deploy your money, you set the factory, people will work on it, we still need them. So these are the areas. So in terms of technology, we need to deploy the technology greatly so that we make use of the available technology. Then in terms of finance, the extension can say a lot of things, can tell the farmers this how to do it, this how to. But if there's no finance backup, and that's where the input comes in, we need to redefine how we get the finance across to our farmers. In so many clients, and I say, and I'm not afraid to say it, that if anybody says we should not subsidize agriculture, that person is deceiving him or herself. It's everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world. Government cannot do, but just need to help farmers in terms of, so I'm not saying giving them money. There's so many ways subsidies can come. There are common infrastructure in some of the estate, provision of good infrastructure, roads and everything is enough, and it's enough an incentive and a subsidy. Don't let me call it subsidy. Don't the word subsidy. Incentive. Everywhere in the world, America can go to any length to demarket other farmers' products around the world because of American farmers. It is. So we must also be ready. But most importantly, the private sector, we are looking at 30 years. The private sector has to look into agri-extension services. The private sector needs to come into that space. Hello? They need to come into that space where you can go into production, you can go into processing, you can go into marketing. But the private sector has to go into extension services. It's basically, if we want to be serious, I'm not saying the government will hands off extension services, but we must come up with a template where if you are providing extension services as a private sector, as there are incentives for people that are producing, processing, if I choose to be a private extension service provider, there should be some incentive for me too. Because and until we see it as a critical factor of production, like maybe it's just for farmers to get the information. No. So there must be a space where private sector will also come in. And I'm sure that if private sector comes in into that with government, like I said, incentive, it could come in any form. I don't have any idea, but we just need to see how we can get my private investor into extension service provision. They will do it. I know some companies, especially our company, but they are doing extension service, but that is restricted to the areas in which they are operating, which is even restricted to certain their micro environment where they're operating. But I'm looking at a situation whereby we have private extension services in all the state of federation that are complementing what the government is doing with incentive from government. because they can't do it alone. Let's face it. It's, the extension services is just like the production too. If we invest this money, we want this money back. The government must come up with the model on how extension services, how private sector can contribute in private extension services, Most importantly, again, in other clients where extension services is working, there's something that we have not realized. That's why it's not working in Africa. We see the extension is not working. When you go to Sri Lanka, if you see, or when you go to Thailand, when you see coconut, sorry, I'm from coconut, that one. When you see where they are planting rice, you will see rice plantation in hundreds of hectares. But I tell you, those hundreds of hectares that you see belongs to individuals. You will see thousands. When you go to Malaysia, when you see oil palm, thousands of hectares. You have your own. Everybody, you know, I know my mother. They know they have their own. Until we get to a situation where we will have concentration of efforts, of where we have comparative advantage, we cannot move. You are as an extension agent. You deploy me to Epe, and in Epe, they are planting cassava, they are planting rice, they are planting maize. As an officer, I will be confused. But if I know that Epe is oil palm belt, hypothetically, I know that 90% of farmers, I'm not saying farmers should not crop other things. 90% of farmers will think that that is what we are doing. If you even make really work of researchers simple, easier, they know this bedroom will get there. This is what is there, and a lot of things we have. So we need to redefine that. If Lagos State we have comparative advantage for coconut, that's why we are concentrating on coconut. So I'm looking at a situation that if a state have comparative advantage for this particular production, let's focus our attention on that. And this cut across the whole Africa. So a situation whereby I plan this, it cannot work. Even at subsistence level, it cannot work. And I give you an example of rice. In Africa, we have problem of bugs. That is what we always cry about rice production in Africa. I wonder that why is not a problem? You know that because the birds are migratory, they move, they don't have boundary. But in other countries, especially when you move out of Africa, what they do is that, like this Thailand, when they plant rice in thousands, the birds, there's a particular period where when the maize is making, when the rice is making, that's when they attack. That's when they attack rice. Now, in Africa, you plant your own 1 hectare. The whole birds in the environment will descend on my own. Finish it. Right? They finish it. The one you planted your own 2 weeks after. Your own is at the making stage. By the time they finish with my own, the next week they will go to my neighbor. After that, and at the end of the day, we don't have resource. But if you have thousands of hectares of rice, the birds, their population is the same. They will come at the same time. And you see that the risk will just be spread. So, and I just use that of rice as an example. And that's what cut across all the value chains. We need, in terms of production, we need to see how we get this more right. That this area, this is where we have comparative advantage, concentrate on it, encourage the farmer. If you want to do this, you can go into coconut. If you want to cultivate in Lagos State, go to coconut instead of going to this, so that you have comparative advantage. It has market too. If you want to export, we want to know that this particular area, this is what they are doing, oil palm is what they are producing. when you want to do certification and everything, and you have standard, it will be easier for government to ensure standards on the production. So it has spiral effect along the chain. If you are able to do, but you are doing your own certification on your own, it will be very difficult to meet all the requirements for certification for export. But by the time you have it in hectares, it will be easier for government to put certain standard in place, and everybody within that belt will benefit. In conclusion, agricultural extension services encompass a range of activities aimed at transferring knowledge, technologies, and best practices to farmers. Remember the definition of my farmer, that my farmer is not the one that is cultivating. So they are pivotal for knowledge dissemination, technology adoption, capacity building, and market linkages. Agriculture in Africa stands at a crossroad with immense potential for growth and development. To harness this and to harness the potential, all the challenges has to be addressed properly with clear definition of how we want to address it if we want to achieve the objectives in the next 30 years. I want to say that agricultural extension services are linchpin in this journey, serving as a catalyst for knowledge transfer, technology adoption, and capacity building. By investing in agricultural extension services, African nations can empower their farmers, enhance food security, drive sustainable agricultural development, and ultimately ensure a brighter future for the continent. Thank you for your attention, and let us work together to cultivate a prosperous, sustainable, and resilient agricultural sector in Africa.
That was quite an insightful speech, if you tell me. I mean, understanding the nitty-gritty of agricultural extension services right here in Nigeria. I know a lot of things stood out for me, but one of which is the fact that language is very, very important. Knowing the language of the persistent farmers and the peasant farmers rather, and of course the commercial farmers and also the youth, because if you are not able to speak the language of the people, they're not able to achieve what you want them to achieve. So you need to be able to speak to these people, the different stakeholders in the language that they understand. Once again, sir, please put us together and celebrate the standard approach. So because of our time, and we know that Mr. Ladapo is a very, very busy man, so I would like to celebrate you by giving an award. Please come forward. Yes, for such an excellent piece of course for your quarter in the educational sector in Nigeria. Thank you.
So at that point, indeed, I would sit with your session again. You said too many things that we need to digest. Is it just me? Thank you so much. So from all of us at the African Government Stakeholders Engagement Forum, thank you for your genius contribution to this year's conference. Do you want to take pictures with him alone? I'd like for all of us to take pictures with him. He needs to go. Please, if you don't mind. Yeah. After all of us, then the panelists. I will call you. There's a lot of things to say. AJ, this okay? Can move it out of the way.
Is it okay?
We need to help us do that.
It's movable actually.
Yeah. Don't worry. I wish we had help in panel conversation with him, asking questions. Yeah. Probably find a way to do it. But it's not that.
That one, if you want.
Yes, it's like a generic business. So with the panelists? Yeah, okay. AJ, what is turn up?
Yeah, it's corrected.
Anybody else wants to join us for the pictures? Anybody else? Nico, you don't want to join us?
All right. Yes, but
You can come back and join us. Together we can be more individually here. Yeah, no, yeah. He said a lot of things. A lot of things. Yeah. So, Adrian. Thank you very much. Where is Kate? Yeah, all the time. Thank you. So we need to.
Yeah. All right, okay. Welcome back, everybody. And of course, virtual audience, we say thank you for staying tuned with us. And of course, I know that we've been able to, learn insightful things. And of course, we'll move on quickly to our next speaker for today, and the person of Femi Adekoya. I mean, he's known as the flying power. That is why you're flying too. So I typically, you would typically think that farmers should be on the ground. And I'm wondering why farmers should be flying. Well, we would know that really shortly. Thank you so much, sir. All right, so I would like to bring up Mr. Femi Adekoya. So Mr. Femi Adekoya is a young and passionate agricultural expert with over a decade of expertise in the field. He is a precision agricultural drone technology specialist dedicated to providing innovative agri-tech services to farmers and advancing the use of digital and precision agriculture in Nigeria and across Africa. Femi obtained his first class bachelor degree in agriculture from the Federal University of Agriculture at Abeokuta and his master's degree in integrated pest management from Harper Adams University, UK, through the prestigious Commonwealth Scholarship by the UK government. As a young African leader and advocate, Femi believes that Africa can feed herself and the world by leveraging the strength of her youthful demographic and technological innovations. He has spoken at several local and international platforms, including the African Conference on Precision Agriculture and the Feed Africa Summit, where he challenged African head of state and stakeholders to invest in youth participation in agriculture. Femi is a recipient of the African Plant Nutrition Institute's Precision Agricultural Young Studies Award in the year 2022 in recognition for his outstanding activities in precision agriculture education, outreach, and research. He's also the co-author of the best-selling book, Drone Professional 3. Femi leads two enterprises based in Nigeria, Integrated Aerial Precision, a drone and data technology service provider in the agricultural industry, and Precision Field Academy, where he trains and educates professionals on emerging technologies such as UAV, that's the drones, GIS, and remote sensing, artificial intelligence, and other Agri 4.0 technologies. Now, his goal is to promote and advance the adoption of digital precision agriculture in Africa while building the capacity of youth for the future of work and tech in agriculture. With Femi's expertise, Africa is on the path to a better and more sustainable future in agriculture. And I feel like myself and Mr. Femi Adekoya have a lot of things in similarities. because I happen to be, have a bit of training in geography. So I mean, we can really relate in the giant part of agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome with me, Mr. Femi Adekoya. Please put your hands together. Please don't stop clapping until we get here. Thank you for joining us at the. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay, I don't even, I have the last speaker, that's Mr. Ladapo. I mean, I've actually given some very deep insight and particularly about the topic of the future of agriculture, particularly in Africa, and how Africa can actually feed itself, and how I also believe that Africa can feed the world, looking at the potential that we have in Africa. And talking about this potential, and these are a very good advantage of forums like this, or when we have discussions like this, is so that we can actually be able to talk and look critically into the status quo and see what can we change, what can be made better. That's actually the point of this. So I would not, I would not be expecting something different from what should be different. because because if we keep doing the same thing, we would keep getting the same result. We keep getting the same result. And so the last speaker mentioned particularly on something I believe that we need to actually focus on, which is about he mentioned it's something like cluster farming. And the goal of that for me, of my perspective about that, in respect to Africa feeding itself, we have been saying at least, we have been saying more than half a century, our food system is based on smallholder farming. And we we have been fed by smallholder farmers, about 60, 70%. I mean, a lot of statistics, some even say 80% of the food we eat comes from the smallholder farmers. And yes, practically, I am a smallholder farmer. I think I'm part of them. But for us to actually reach the point of food sufficiency, sovereignty, and security in the real sense, we need to actually, while we still say 70, 80% of our food comes from the smallholder farmers, we are still not food sufficient. That's the reality. We are still not food sovereign. That is the reality. So, my point is, we cannot keep actually that same methodology or that same process and expect us to actually achieve a change, a ground standing change in our food system, particularly. And that is why personally I advocate for the scaling or commercialization of these smallholder farmers. I haven't been let me start with my story before I actually go, so that I can be able to share context into my perspective. I don't know anything apart from agricultural industry. It's my teenagehood. I've decided to actually be in the agricultural industry because imagine, this is what inspired me to agriculture. I think I was 8 or 9 years old at that time, and I just my parents are not farmers, although they came from farming background. I mean, obviously, people who come to Lagos come from different villages across Nigeria, and to come and make it in Lagos, So they are basically people who are actually into the artisan industry, craft stores. My mom is a tailor, which we call fashion designer these days, and my dad is also a furniture maker. So I was born in Mushi, Lagos. So I'm giving you this context so that you can know that it's not first about having first-hand experience with the farm, but from the fact that planting a seed of maize, you can be able to get more like hundreds of it back in a matter of weeks. I mean, for me, as a young chap who knows one plus one, and I'm smart to know that I need to make money, I feel that agriculture can actually be the inroad for economic stability because there is multiplication in, as it's supposed to be. You're planting a seed of maize. At the end of the day, you should be harvesting more than hundreds of it back, right? I mean, I'm going to be a billionaire. I mean, if I plant it a couple of times, and multiple effect, that exponential growth, would come into it. So, and that is actually the inspiration that got me into agriculture. I got interested and passionate about it. So when it comes to classes, forget about it. If it is agriculture, well, I might struggle with chemistry, I might struggle with physics, I might struggle with other course, mathematics. Okay, but if it comes to agriculture, you can be sure that I can have my A, of course. Because I took interest. Like, how does this thing work? How can I actually make it huge and big in the field of agriculture? So, and when it came to a time to actually study for the first degree, I mean, of course, it's agriculture. And started out also. I started business also, and then I realized that the goal of every youth, somebody like me, who came into the agriculture industry, was not to actually be a small farmer, was not to be part of the statistics, but to be different and to show how things supposed to be. Because in the real sense, from my personal experience and from my engagement with various farmers the smallholder farmers, nobody actually desires to actually be small in the real sense. You want to actually grow big. You want to actually be able to make money, ends meet, a sustainable livelihood that is comparable with any other profession. Okay, agricultural students would want to study agriculture, and they want to actually compare themselves with an engineer. They want to compare themselves with a banker who is actually collecting thousands of naira every month, or which other trade, and they don't want to feel inferior, because that's the point. Uh, Being able to study and getting the best of livelihood, that's actually the goal of either a student studying agriculture, a farmer. So you want to actually be able to see agriculture as a means to actually grow economically. Now, the reason behind that is this. Primarily, the farmer is actually on the field, not because he wants to provide food security to the nation. We need to first clear that. It's not on the field. I'm not toiling all night. I'm not carrying bag of manure in my head. Even if I'm a smallholder farmer, just because of the sake of food security. I don't care about food security. I don't even know what is food security. What I know is that I'm into this because I'm into business. And the goal of business is to make profit. So if I don't make profit, your food security is, I don't understand. Yeah, because that's the point. That is the point. That is the point. If we say agriculture, yeah, agriculture, you are into agriculture because, oh, it's money in agriculture. Go into agriculture. Agriculture is and the, you know, in the next decade, the next billionaires are going to be farmers. Those are the things you saw if, before you came into agriculture, all those branding stores and all that. But my point is, if we actually have to solve food security, we need to first solve the economic security. Are our farmers actually getting the best out of their endeavor, out of their business? But they cannot actually get the best, or how can they get the best, for us to actually achieve food security? And I'm not actually going into, as Mr. Oladapo has actually mentioned, about subsidy. I'm just saying that to say that the primary responsibility of food security does not lie on the farmer. It lies on the government. It lies on the government, or let's say social services. And I think it is the government that are actually in charge of social services. So it's actually on the government. So the government must ensure that this farmer who are key to our food security are able to first achieve their goal. Are able to first achieve their goal. And how can they achieve their goal? Is by actually providing them what is needed. And so one of the things that is actually needed is digitalization. We're now talking about the 21st, we're not talking about agriculture in the 21st century. Digitalization is actually important. Mechanization is actually very important. How can we make it easy for our smallholder farmers to grow efficiently and ensure productivity? That should actually be our goal. Now, technology is actually not the end. I mean, I'm an agricultural technologist. I play in the space of agricultural technologies, particularly drone technology. But I mean, my interaction with farmer, and as a farmer myself, I don't care if you are flying bricks. I don't care the name you call yourself. I don't even care. As long as you provide me the solution I want, that's what matters. So no matter the shape, the size of your technology, the farmer does not care about that. He cares about how is this going to better my pocket. He cares about if I'm going to employ your service, how is it going to reduce my costs, or how is it going to increase my profit, or perhaps increase my productivity. Oh, I've been getting 10 tons before. Okay, so I can now get 15 tons. Oh, five tons, that's 50% increase. Oh, I can get 20 tons. Oh, that's 100% increase. That's actually the language the farmers actually understand, either small or commercial farmers. Because that's the point. So they want to actually get more from their effort. I mean, using small to get more. So, and this is actually where technology play a very important role to ensure that we can be able to do agriculture more efficiently and in a productive manner. And most importantly, because we now talk about sustainability is key. How can we then use technology to actually promote sustainability in what we do? Now, talking about productivity and that agriculture, particularly as we know from the practical terms, is most of the time not ceteris paribus. I mean, all things being equal when you get to the field. I mean, practically, I've not ever seen any time that all things were actually equal. Even from your forecast, between this time to this time, you are expecting the price to actually go up, and you are actually targeting that time to actually sell into the market. And that is when you just hear, these people from the north, their rain came earlier this year, and they flooded the market earlier. So, and you wonder, but as much as, because this is actually a risk averse and we have a lot of uncertainty in this industry. How can we actually reduce the shock and the impact of this uncertainty? That's actually the point where technology comes in diverse shape or manner across the value chain. This is actually what we are talking about when it comes to technological application to actually feed ourselves in respect of Operation Feed Africa, and also Africa feeding the world. Now, the future of agriculture that I see for agriculture, particularly in Africa, is a future where technology, where youth are able to play and impact the sector with technology. We now seeing different technology these days, and with the sudden hype of artificial intelligence here and there, people are now beginning aware about, so technology can do this for me, technology can do that for me. I mean, agriculture is actually not left behind. We now have emerging technologies that are actually changing the game, that are actually helping farmers achieve their goal. Of course, artificial intelligence is actually one of them. We need artificial intelligence to come in helping farmers to actually detect diseases, disease detection. Um, Even before farmers can, these plants or animals can show obvious symptoms. How can farmers be able to know? There's what we call economic threshold. Oftentimes, farmers actually, because of our limitation with the height, for a plant to actually show yellowness, I mean, it's not that day that it begins to actually suffer from the deficiency of nitrogen, but primarily it could actually be other things. But how can we actually detect these diseases, anomalies on the field? What is actually going on? Because agriculture, particularly let's say crop production, it's a game of getting it right from A to Z. It's a game of getting it right from A to Z for you to actually ensure optimal productivity. If you miss it at the point of if your plant population, if you're planted, you've gotten the best of ants or tractor to help you plant, you get the best population, you need to actually protect the crop. You need to actually you need to actually manage the crop to actually get the best productivity. At different growth stage, either animal or crops, you need to actually ensure that you are managing them well to ensure productivity. And so I mentioned about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is key to help farmers to be able to also know what recommendations do they actually need. Can we actually have, and I know there are solutions already being developed, can we actually have a chat GPT for farmers that they can be able to type in their question and it can be able to give them recommendation of, okay, this is my soil. I've actually done a soil test. This is the result that I got. It can be able to give them a recommendation based on crop specifics, crop specific recommendations. These are actually ways we need to actually begin to think and promoting this technology. And of course, um, data is actually very important because this is actually the cruise when we talk about artificial intelligence. And there's no intelligence without data. So how can we actually collect data, manage data, and ensure that data, be it crop data, be it the farmers' data, particularly on how they spend, can actually be used to actually help them to scale, to actually help them to actually increase their productivity. How can we actually do that? So, and this is actually where a technology like drone technology comes in. Drone technology can actually help farmers with um, farmers when they go into the field. Oh, you are buying so and so hectares of land, for example. The landowner is saying, "I have 50 hectares of land for you." Of course, you cannot just say, "Oh, this is 50 hectares and that's all." You want to actually ensure that it is actually 50 hectares of land. With drone technology, you can collect data of the land, mapping the field, and getting the accurate result. Without with certainty. You can be able to do this. You can also be able to monitor the crops on the field by actually, it's just like during the COVID-19, there's this rampant adoption of digital thermometer. Just that same way, we can be able to use specialized sensors to actually uh, collect the data of this crop or animals, be it body temperature and or vegetation health. Okay, what is actually happening to the crop? And that's due to remote sensing technologies that can actually help us to detect deficiency anomalies on the field, scout the field particularly to help farmers to know what is going on or what is the status of their crop and of their field. Uh, okay, of their field. Another technology, and we're talking about drone technology. This technology is actually, I would say, broader to different kinds of technologies. Talking about GIS, of course, drone technology is actually a geospatial technology, and this is why we're talking about mapping, talking about data collection, talking about site specifics. And when we are talking about site specifics, or in terms of reduction in cost of production, we want to actually encourage precision agriculture. You do not want to just go into the field and just with guesswork, and that's what most African agriculture is all about. We guess. We just like, okay, let's just play along with this. But if we can be able to have data to actually support us, to support precision agriculture, we can be rest assured that our productivity will be increased while we actually reduce the cost of production and also resources being used. Yeah, and we cannot actually talk about all of these technologies. There are a lot of technologies available from digital extension works, education, to a lot of platforms to help farmers to actually aggregate even when they have the right yield, the best yield. It's not going to end here. For us to actually feed ourselves, even when we get the best productivity today, we need to actually get the food to the table. And this is where logistics actually come in. This is actually where we need to actually optimize our supply chain. So, and there are a lot of technologies that can actually help us. Well, of course, I've actually mentioned GIS. GIS also play a very important role when it comes to supply chain optimization. Yeah, I also want to talk about youth empowerment and training. We know that Africa has the largest youth population, and I strongly believe that this is the peak of the potential that we have as Africa to actually feed the world. I'm actually seeing an Africa that not only feed itself, but to actually feed the world, because we have the land mass, and we have the energy, we have the demography to actually leverage on all of this potential. Talking about the youth, talking about the young people that we have in Africa, I believe that if we equip them with the right skill, with the exposure needed, and this is actually what I am doing with Precision Feed Academy, opening up this youth to latest and emerging technology that is changing the game. And of course, well, it's easier for the youth to actually innovate with technology, because that's actually their language. We actually born into the age of digital technologies, from WhatsApp to Twitter to we can do a lot of things on our phone. And that's why maybe some older people do not actually understand why you are just at home, you don't have work, but you are making money and all this. Because it is now a digital economy. We're now in the fourth agricultural revolution, where digitalization is actually the focal. That's actually where we are in the realm of digitalization. That's the point. This revolution that we are in. So we need to actually empower the youth with the skill, with the training that they need, the exposure, the education, the latest technology, to actually and my one of the things that I'm passionate about, or I do mention, is not just for us to actually just adopt technology or just promote technology, but for us to actually see that our youth understand this technology, and they can actually be players and influencers of the agriculture 4.0, the fourth agricultural revolution, the 24th century. They're not just receiving it, but they can be able to actively hone the technology and run with it. When we are able to see that, we will be able to see a change in terms of even mindset. Agriculture, because compared to many other industries, is the most advanced to technology. And as it currently stands, according to McKinsey report, the agriculture is the least digitized industry amongst all industry. Look at it. Agriculture generally in the world, although it's skewed to better in some places than another, but particularly in Africa, we are still coming up when it comes to technology. And I believe that when we empower the youth, expose them to the potential of this technology and how this technology can actually change their life and their livelihood, and to also make impact with technology, we can train them to actually change the game. We have them in abundance. This same youth can actually be on the farm, that the one thinking about how can I actually make this thing better? How can I get the best out of this thing? Is there any technology available? So when they know that this is a technology that is available, okay, how can I get access to this technology? How can I actually develop this technology? So from the adoption side of things, using technology, to also innovating with technology, can we actually develop them to become innovators of technology? Not just users, not just observers of technology or observers of the trend. Oh, this is what is going on now. But can we actually develop our own that is context specific to the African landscape? We cannot, just like we cannot take a seed from the temperate region and plant it here and expect it to thrive. It's not. But we need to actually develop technology that actually can actually thrive in our own region. Oh, we know that many of our farmers actually have small scale, and we want to encourage them to actually grow big. We need to actually start not from the John Deere big 320 horsepower tractors. I mean that that the farmer cannot even dream in his life to actually make, even if they sell it. That's the reality. But we need to actually, how can we develop small tractors or autonomous tractors, something as small as this? Can we create an incubation hub that can actually incubate the ideas that this youth have? And just create innovations that, instead of the back-wrecking, drudgery, reading agriculture, can we actually create a small robot, a small machine that is actually self-driven? Yes, these things are actually not in the real, that are self without the stress, but you can be able to monitor, and it is not really that expensive. It's something, and this is actually the age of decentralization. It's a age of decentralization, and this is actually some of the things I believe that we can be able to quickly tap into in the agriculture 4.0. Talking about this digitalization or digitization, this is actually the age of decentralization. From blockchain, why do you think that many central banks of different countries are actually, first of all, like, they are hungry about blockchain, or cryptocurrency? But let's talk about blockchain. Blockchain has a way of actually helping us decentralize our supply chain. And youth are actually in the helm of this. How can we encourage them to actually create a system where we can be able to manage our records? And that's actually where blockchain comes in. We can be able to have traceability, and that's where blockchain comes in. How can we actually create a system where the youth can be able to create? I mentioned robots. As small as I saw online one time, a machine to actually weed the farm, and it was actually moving autonomously, maybe in a coconut farm, maybe in a oil palm farm. We can be able to have such that can actually help our farmers to. And when we are doing this, we are actually promoting sustainability. I have one of my mentees who is actually developing a soil sensor that can actually detect not only water in terms of soil moisture, it also detect the quantity of nitrogen and yes. And those small devices, how can we promote them? How can we create an environment that allows them to actually innovate more, iterate on their technology, and become better? And we not fully dependent on, we need to go to China before we buy it. And now we're, you know what dollar is saying. And if you are even as a matter of fact, that's even different. There are technologies that you cannot even freely bring in. So, but how can we then develop it locally? For example, in my own company, we are actually assembling agricultural drones already, and we are looking at a way to actually scale this, because we believe that talking about decentralization, drone technology can actually be a tool. I see a future where African farmers can be able to have drone technology as part of their tool in their store. They can be able to put it on their bike. They can be able to put it in their backpack, to be able to monitor their field, to be able to spray their crops, to be able to spread seeds, And we need to actually do more in talking about youth, because all of these things revolves around youth. I'm a youth, of course. So, and a lot of many of these innovations are actually brought about by youth, from the sleeves of the youth. So we need to actually give them the environment, encourage them to actually come up with the innovation that they have, and guide them, mentorship. And that's one thing about what I'm doing with Precision Feed Academy. Apart from education and knowledge sharing, because it is very important, where we bring global experts to actually train this. I mean, show them what drone technology is doing, what GIS, what artificial intelligence is doing, data science, and all of these buzzwords, but simplifying it to them and see how it is being applicable in agriculture. When we start with that, education and knowledge sharing, it exposes them, to what this technology can do. And trust me, when you expose them to what this technology can do, the mind of the youth are actually, I mean, it's so, like our president said, I mean, a fertile ground. It would multiply. They begin to like, oh, it can actually be used for this. What you even did not think about that this technology can be used for, they can be able to give you another use case. And that is how we can multiply and see impact of technology in our life. So apart from knowledge sharing, we also still have, like I mentioned, the skill development and training. Skill development and training is very, very important. Okay, now that you have actually understand this technology, or you are aware about this technology, you've taken interest in this technology. How can you then begin to use this technology? How can you develop your skill to become the next sought after expert when it comes to this technology? And one key thing is that when we actually train them, they can be able to think in the context of of the African landscape. Oh, how can we use drone technology in cassava? And because of their knowledge, how can we? Of course, cassava is not. We are the highest producer of cassava, right? Largest producer of cassava. How can we use drone technology in yam farm? How can we use drone technology in mixed cropping that is actually common in Africa? How can we actually ensure sustainable intensification that is actually needed for productivity? They begin to think about that. And while they are doing this, another point and part of our methodology is mentorship and coaching. I have actually come to see that mentorship and coaching is very, very important, because these youth want to actually build career. They want to actually be the next flying farmer. They want to actually be the next traditional. How can I actually get there? Yeah, how can I actually get there? It's about teaching them, mentoring them. This is where you need to go. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. These are actually what we are doing, and what I believe that we can actually multiply across Africa. Yeah, lastly, we need to invest. We need to put money where our mouth is. We cannot be talking about, oh, technological, so and so is. Of course, technology actually, you need to actually invest in technology for it to scale. For you to even have access to it, you need to actually invest. So our government stakeholders need to actually come up with innovative ways to actually finance, the adoption of technology and the proliferation of these technologies that we are talking about, for us to actually see to the future of agriculture that we envision. And we need to actually begin to heart. We need to actually begin to heart the future that we predict for agriculture. We need to begin to create it. It will not just suddenly come. We need to actually be intentional. We need to actually be decisive. I mentioned putting our money where our mouth is. We need to actually be intentional. We need to create the future that we predict. We predict that, oh, Africa will so and so. This is what so billion that we are going to be raking in so and so time. We need to actually be intentional about it to begin to create the future. We need to actually begin to do this. And I believe, so for me to actually round up, I believe that Africa can actually feed itself. I so much believe, because of the potential that we have, the land mass, the youth population that we have, the energy we have in store, in them. and the ingenuity that we have. So the ingenuity of this youth, I believe that Africa can actually feed itself, and not only itself, feed the world. If we can actually do, follow this uh, point that I'm actually shared today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. That was pretty insightful, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And of course, as always, I mean, I was really taking notes, and I was just really hoping that my data doesn't, get to Anyways, I mean, he said a lot of things, and of course, to corroborate with what Mr. Ladapo said earlier about the language, and then he mentioned something about the youth. Now, the thing about the youth of today is being able to understand their language. Now we're in the age of ChatGPT, tech. I mean, using because I know that most of the young people rather interface with the drone in terms of photography, cinematography, and the likes. But understanding that that can also apply to agriculture is very very important. And was a particular day I was on social media and I stumbled on a particular app that could tell the health of a plant. So having Nigerians, to be able to build that up, because I mean, it's one thing to have the training, another to be able to build capacity, to also bring, build all these, facilities to make Nigeria, put it beyond Nigeria and African countries, put them on the map as well. Once again, please put your hands together for Mr. Femi Adekoya. You will bring you back up because we'd like to present to you an award for your contributions in that signal sector in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Femi. This was more than insightful for us. It's quite great to meet you personally. And on behalf of all of us at the African stakeholders, African government stakeholders engagement forum, we say thank you for your genius contribution. When we're done, we'll take pictures.
All right. Thank you.
Please put your hands together, please. Thank you. Okay, so the next speaker that I'm going to bring up, whilst I was going through her profile, my heart was beating really fast because I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is a silent tsunami. Oh my goodness, I'm more than inspired. I am more than challenged as a young person. And if someone that is my big mommy cannot be sitting on all of these boards, young woman, what exactly are you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, a delight to bring up this woman. She sits on a lot of boards. She is a mover and shaker. Like I said, she's a silent tsunami. Now, Mrs. Edobong Apabio is an agro entrepreneur and a business consultant. She has developed the knowledge, interest, and passion over the past 3 decades in human resource management, business consulting, and entrepreneurship in a bid to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses successfully. She is an ILO SIYB trainer, a career youth and marriage counselor, a gender advocate, an appointed UN mentor, a Cherry Blair Foundation volunteer mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. This is a very heavy profile. Only one person. All right, a Faith Foundation volunteer facilitator, trainer, mentor, and a Tony Aluminum Foundation volunteer mentor, and a certified lead auditor in 2 international quality systems. Don't let me call it out. Let's just move straight ahead. She has a PG, she has a degree in English Studies from the University of Uyo, and of course a PhD in Logistics and Supply Chain Management from the University of Ife, and a PhD in Theology from the Redeemed Christian Bible College. She is a Faith Foundation alumnus, and her career has traversed many sectors of the Nigerian economy, from manufacturing, construction, banking, lottery, logistics, my goodness, and consulting. She's a co-founder of 2 agri-business organizations, Visionage Agrotech Farms Limited, and of course, Organic Grain Animalia Farms, pardon me, please, and of course, a member of the following bodies: the NECA Network of Entrepreneurial Women, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Institute of Agribusiness Management Nigeria, Country Women Association of Nigeria. She sits on a lot of boards, like I said earlier. She has participated in professional and personal development programs and participated in women, teen, and youth empowerment programs as a trainer and life coach. She's married to Eno Akpabio, and they are blessed with wonderful children. And just like Mr. Femi has said about youth empowerment, I'm sure that Mr. Enobong will be able to, put that into global context because she's a counselor, and of course I know that she has had to experience a lot of young people back and forth. Ladies and gentlemen, please bring with me a very silent tsunami. I mean, I think I would just call it a it's the level on the computer. Thank you so much for bringing us at the end of the day. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Congratulations on the success because it's actually very successful. I couldn't join yesterday desperately. The network was just not cooperating. But I know I heard and saw some of the comments that came from the social media that it was quite interesting having to hear all the speeches, all the contributions and presentations yesterday. So far, it's been also very, very interesting. Mr. Ibe and Mr. Ladapo have done three-quarters of my job because a lot of what they've shared is what really has to do with the topic I'm sharing this morning. And then Femi is always a delight to listen to any day. He's been able to key in on the areas that the young people want to. Those are the areas they really are interested in, and it's important for us to get them into that, to key them into such a great potential for agricultural space for them, because they are the future. If our grandparents have exited, parents are about to exit, I'm looking forward to a good retirement in a few years' time, and I'm leaving Femi alone. It's not interesting at all. Thank God for Lucy. So they will struggle together. I bet they don't need to. A lot of work has been done and still needs to be done. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Let me quickly get on with what you've asked me to come and do. My topic this morning is on achieving better food processing systems in Africa. It was actually how can we achieve food processing in Africa. I had to tweak it a little because the topic would not have been the reality. We've done some processing, we just need to get it better. So I tweaked it, to have that. So let's be able to settle on this topic by understanding. Let me have some background understanding on food processing. It has to do with transforming agricultural food items, because there are some agricultural items that are not food. So it has to do with transforming agricultural food items, and they are mainly raw materials, fresh foods, into food products. So that's what food processing is all about in a nutshell. So we have so many techniques, various ways of processing food that has to do, like for instance, milling grains into flour, crushing seeds for oil, milk to butter, sausage, beef to sausage. So we have a whole lot of that and more, because our food varieties are huge, especially in Africa. When you travel abroad, they tell you just know that you're going to stick to rice and potatoes, not in Africa. Our food varieties are wider, way more wider. So why is food processing important? Number one, it provides for food preservation. When we process food, we are actually elongating the life of that food by making it into various products. We are preserving, food and making food more available actually. So we are not battling with post-harvest losses anymore, because we'll be able to get it into another stage that helps to preserve it some more. And then in the course of processing, we also get to remove parts that are not edible. So all those stems, when we get the fresh fruit, we have to peel. People probably don't eat the peel of orange when we are doing juice. So we are able to peel off, that orange and get the juice. So the areas that are not edible are removed. Also, in the process of processing food, we are able to remove harmful substances. That's how we have pasteurization in milk, to be able to remove areas that are harmful, particles that are harmful, substances that are harmful, so we can make the food safe and wholesome for consumption. In the course of processing food, also, food becomes available in a convenient package for consumers. So they can keep it, instead of me to keep a whole tree of orange I'm just putting like some packs in my drawer, for consumption, and I can always get it because I can always go to the market, to the supermarket, to the shops nearby and get my juice. So I don't need to have a whole tree, in my kitchen. And then it also gives us food ingredients. We need to process. Many people do not know what curry looks like. The curry that we enjoy. The first time I saw it is the leaf. So you need to dry it, you need to, mill it to be able to get curry. So those are some of the areas. If we don't process it, we can't use curry, the way we pick it, from. So we get to have food ingredients from food processing as well. Now let's talk about food processing in Africa. The food processing sector in Africa is actually dominated by nano, micro, small and medium enterprises, and then some old multinational companies. And that's where, Femi gets to tell us about the smallholders and then having the huge commercial ones. So in the food processing sector, we have them. We have nano ones, those ones that make snacks, from raw foods. And then we have the multinational companies, those are the industrial levels, that we have. And they are all over Africa. And then, like I said earlier, Africa is blessed with a very large variety of agricultural produce. We have a lot of food products in Africa. And then there is so much opportunity for processing. We're processing some, but we can do better. And that's why we need to contribute to the conversations that this conference has been able to throw up. So let's look at the opportunities for agro-food processing in Africa. Africa has a very large population. We're looking at all the 54, 55 countries. We're looking at 1.3 to 1.5 billion people. So we are a huge market for processed foods, a growing middle class. And you know that middle class doesn't want to make their fufu, they don't want to make their, they want to go buy. So they are a very huge market and growing in Africa for processed food. Our processed food sector is still growing. It's not really developed if we compare to other continents. So there's a huge opportunity to be able to move in and do a lot more. And that's where the multinationals come in. That's where the big, corporate organizations will come in to add the industry flavor to our food processing. We need a lot of value-added products. Femi has talked about the cassava and the yam. On their own, in the tuber form, we need to add value to them, which is what food processing brings. Mr. Ladapo, his background being, his mandate right now with the Lagos State government, being the development of the coconut subsector. There's a lot too. If we look at what's, all the entire value chain in coconut processing. Many years ago, as a member of the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and the operations officer for a unit that was put together, we had what we called the coconut. We had the coconut business, and was signing a kind of PPP with the Lagos State government to establish and manage a coconut cluster, processing cluster in Badagry. If I can remember very well, it was going to be about 48 acres of hectares, thereabouts. I think it was acres. And the chamber was being invited to do that, and I learned a lot. We had over 40 products that people wanted to process from coconut alone in Lagos, and it really hit me hard that that project didn't come up. But those are some of the things that we get to see on a regular basis, whether it's politics or just pure bad bellies. And it's happening all over Africa. That's why we're where we are, and we need to do better. Also, when we process food, there are opportunities for food safety and quality control. So you have all of these standards coming in. You have a lot of people coming in to make various items, various equipment and machines and other technologies that can be used, to improve food safety and quality in our food. So there is a whole lot of room for all of them to come in. And then In Africa, we are still really, really high on producing organic food. Probably because a lot of us don't welcome fertilizer, we don't welcome a lot of chemical use for our food production. But then again, we are not able to cash in on the huge market for organic food products out there. So there is a whole lot of opportunities to be able to do that. Okay, you don't like chemical stuff, no problem. We can still, churn out what we are producing. So the opportunity is huge there. There's also huge opportunity in the use of technology, automation, and all of this stuff that Femi has been working on for so many years. And we need young people to be able to get there. We love all the apps. Yes, we do. We love them. But an average farmer, just like Mr. Ladapo said and Femi has said, I want to see it translate into the naira and cover of my business. I just don't want to admire the app. I just don't want to see just efficiency in my business. I also want to see my bottom line. I need to see it, impact positively in my bottom line. But these are huge opportunities for us in Africa that we can quickly cash in. Just in one subsector, which is food processing. So how can Africa achieve better systems in food processing? The first thing we need to do is strengthen AFTA. AFTA is the AFCFTA, which is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which was born from the agreement that was established in 2018. And it kicked off on 1st January 2021. We are looking and we're seeing some traction, very good traction, but we need to do more. We need to do more. We're still having problems with quality of our products. We're still grappling with regulation. We're still grappling with logistics. We're still grappling with language. So it's something that the countries need to do more. I tell you, if we are able to meet the objectives of the AFCFTA, food processing in Africa will take it to different shape because products will just be going from Lagos to Morocco and from South Africa to Tanzania and all of that. And people are also moving as well. We've given birth to a very huge, step in our ability in our quest to integrate in Africa. We need to do more. There's so much that AFCFTA can do for Africa. When it comes to food processing in Africa, we need to strengthen that AFCFTA. We need to engage more. We need to drop some of those barriers. We need to make things less difficult. We need to have one, a look-alike one country that is like a one region, a one continent that is just flowing. And it's very, very important for us to work towards that. It's interesting for us. I'm glad that I'm alive to witness something like this. I recall that growing up, my dad was a heavy traveler around Africa. I really do not know which country I haven't been to. So for me, the more we are able to work towards achieving the objectives of the AFCFTA, the better we are going to be able to grow our food processing strength. The second area that I want to mention is strengthening our quality systems. Oh, we have the ISO, we have the HACCP, we have the Global GAP, and all of the other ones. What is Africa's food standard? We need to have an African standard. We have our food, we have so we need to have a stand. We have to have the African standard for them. That this is what we have. Take it or leave it. Just like what they have. We have that discussion and let's have our own quality system. So my yam in Nigeria, I can sell it in Uganda. My plantain, the banana in Uganda goes well with me for what I want to do here in Nigeria and all over the place. We know where to look for. So that is a key area that we need, to be able to strengthen. To be able to do better in our food processing system. Next, I want to say that we need to work on research. Mr. Ladapo spoke a lot about that. You did too. And we really cannot say enough about this. For me, research starts before the cultivation. Research starts before the cultivation. I was speaking a little bit, Lucy, before we started, and I'm like, we need to ensure that we have our indigenous specimens, whether crop or livestock. We need to keep, build, grow, maintain, and our indigenous specimens. So our research institutions should not be just civil service structures. I don't think that will work for us. We need to get them out and work with other stakeholders. They cannot just sit down in their laboratories and churn out research outcomes and put them inside their drawers. It doesn't get to us. We can't use it, so it's nil, and we can't continue like this. Many countries in Africa are doing better. They sync their research to the stakeholders. So which of the stakeholders do we want to, will this research address? What are their challenges? So before we get into our labs, and I'm not saying that all researches take place in the lab, but before we go there, we are already familiar with the situation of that stakeholder, and the stakeholder is aware, and we are working together to get a solution to whatever seems to be the challenge. We don't seem to do that in a lot of African countries. We need to not only do that in our different countries, we need to tap it into the AFCFTA so that a research outcome in Nigeria is available in Sudan. A research outcome in Egypt is available in South Africa. That is the only way that we are going to grow and grow together. So research is good, but research must address what seems to be, the challenges and the needs of stakeholders. So we can, in the food processing subsector, we need to have research that addresses all our concerns, whether it's availability, whether it's accessibility, whether it's safety, whether it's affordability. All of that are subject to research, and we should be able to work through all of that. It's quite interesting that the areas for which I believe that young people can actually key into are the areas for which, whether it's tech, whether it's non-tech, to address a challenge. So when I ask the apps, what is the challenge? They really cannot say. So we need to be able to have research that, it's addressing something. So we now have a solution and we can move forward. That for me is very, very key. So if we're looking for research for small and simple implements for our farmers instead of those giant looking tractors and all of that, there are millions of farmers who will need all of those. There are farms that need to, we are facing climate change. Let's not deceive ourselves. All those small farmers need to know what's going to be the, not all of them even have access to what meteorology this thing is giving. And some people are saying, no, this is not good. We need to have other weather reports from elsewhere. We need to sit and look at what research can do for us and move on with that. So next one is to improve our infrastructure. I really cannot say too much about this. First thing is the fact that our town planning laws in many countries situate farm businesses in the rural areas, and the rural areas are not developed by the government. The government doesn't go there. So I can probably understand that for Nigeria we were so busy with crude oil, that we didn't remember that we had opportunities and comparative advantage in sectors like agriculture. So we just stagnated at this and used it for charity. That's good. And we felt that the villagers didn't need good roads, they didn't need potable water, electricity, except it's linking to the next town. That's how some of the electricity is passing through these rural areas. They were not really earmarked for them. It's just because it's moving from one town to the other, it's going to pass through their areas. So we need to do better. And I'm not just talking about physical instructors. You mentioned something about the legal instructors, the policies, the procedures. We need to have them clear, not ambiguous. We need to also have them publicized. Up till today, you cannot go to some of the websites of our institutions and look for something like what can you not export out of Nigeria? It's not there. What are the products that you cannot import? You know, the prohibited items. You can't find them in any regular website. That's not how we are going to do better. So all our infrastructure, whether they are physical or not, we need to improve on them. And then you will discover that the food processing system grows better because people are aware. It's important for Mr. Nadapa talked a lot about the extension officers. The extension officers basically work with information, which they need to communicate. So when they don't have this information, they are as good as what they carry. And if it's not good information, it's not helpful, you know, to the agricultural value chain. So we need to do better. We need to provide them with capacity building. We need to provide them with training. We need to make inputs, quality inputs, accessible and affordable, you know, for farmers. Because you see, the food processing industry depends on the farmers, and it is the quality of their raw materials that they use. Many years ago, I used to distribute vegetable products to Nando's. Nando's was then at the time a subsidiary of USA Foods. And I learned a lot from that experience. USA Foods at the time was importing fries, the potatoes. They were importing them. And I asked one of the managers, why do you do that? And it was like, Nigeria doesn't have the quality of potatoes for their fries. Yes, that's what he told me. And Nigeria has a potato belt of at least 9 states. Potato belt. Different species of potato. None of it is good. He told me a lot, even at that time. But so many things hinder that. True, they want a particular quality of potatoes. You can't deny them that. They want potato that is able to fry properly. The one you and I would like. If we go there and they serve us soggy potato that has just been removed from the oil, you and I will not take that. So we need to have the kind of produce that can translate to the quality of products that we want to. If our tomato cannot give us the puree that we want, no wonder we are still importing. So improving infrastructure is not only physical now, it has all the other areas that need to make that raw material good enough for the processor. Otherwise, they are not going to get what they are looking for. May I let you know that some of the gari we eat does not have even the minimum quantity of starch it should have. Yes, and we need to look at it. So we are looking at us being the highest producer of cassava, and yet some of our cassava tubers are not, they don't have that quality, the good quality that we need, or even some of the products. We are just using them because they are there, they are available, not because that is the quality of cassava that they want to use. And so when you go to the starch companies, because they are industrial at that level, they will tell you that it is only in so of starch that they will pay for. So you can carry a whole truckload of cassava and get returns for it. Because if it doesn't have the kind of starch that they want, that's what they will pay for. So it starts from the field to the industry, and the industry must get what they want. So we need to work on that. I will always talk on the use of technology. Automation is it. We have to stop, you know, that filling a bottle of palm oil with cup, you know, and then we just mark with a marker where it should stop, meaning that that is what is 75 cl. So we mark it with we mark it with a marker, and then we now scoop. Yes, we now scoop, you know, with a cup. We need to go automated. Yes, I completely agree with Femi sometimes that we really require those large farmers. But I've been to countries where even small farmers, all they need to do is aggregate themselves and attach themselves to a processor. So I have all the palm, but I'm small, and my palm is like maybe 1 hectare. So the cost of milling, I really do not have that comparative advantage. It's going to cost me more. you know. But if all of us, 10 of us, want 1 hectare, we are able to tap into, you know, we can attract a processor to our midst, and then we all supply our palm fruits there, and the person meals. So the person can now invest in a proper meal up to bottling facilities. I want to be able to see a goosey, which is a major part of our food, come from the farm, and you put it in that machine and you bag it at the end there. That is what I want to see when it comes to processing. We need to do away with some of this really tacky way of, you know, the manual does not even cut it, because some of the things that we see are frightening and they are not safe. So our products are not competitive. Our products are not competitive when you take them out. Apart from it's costly because our infrastructure is poor. It's really not, you know, top notch. So it's costlier for us. So when you compare your chips with chips from outside of Africa, it's better for you to import chips, potato chips. It's better for you to import plantain chips than for you to make it. It's far easier and cheaper. And we cannot go that route, not when we have the AFCFTA. So we have a lot that we can work on to be able to achieve better food processing systems in Africa. I want to conclude by telling us that the food processing sector in Africa has the potential to promote Africa's rich agricultural sector and to be able to take the continent to the global space. People will pay attention to us when they can see our products everywhere. Right now, when you go abroad, you will see our products. And I tell you, some of it are not commercial exports. They are domestic exports. So I'm going to visit my family member. I can't even go Ghana must go of smoked fish. So it gets to my family member, you know, over there, and they, you know, somehow maybe it's too much for just one of the plants, so they sell it to the African shops around. So you get to see smoked fish. But I tell you, it may not be the standard that is expected from an export quality. Yes, they just allow you because it's small. When you do a 20-feet container, that's when you know that they will pay attention. They will look and see whether there is maggot in the head. They will look and see whether you've cleaned it properly. If they see any sand, the entire container is destroyed. Yes, it's marked for destruction. So when we process more of our food, let's take our local food, let's take our cocoyam, let's take it there. They need it, I tell you, because let's even settle for the cocoyam. It's a thickener. They need thickness there. So they are using our cocoyam. So we need to take, you know, our foods out there and represent Africa very, very well. So nobody will be looking at us as a poor continent. They will not look at us as people they need to be throwing aid at. We don't do that in Asia. We should not allow them to do that. Food processing will be able to get us there. So we've come a long way since the colonial era. We have done a lot. Lady J did say something about the Ukraine war and the fact that we haven't cashed in on the wheat. I want to let you know that Ethiopia did that almost immediately, and give it a few more years. Ethiopia will be supplying us wheat in the entire Africa. They've done a lot of work on that. So we are not sleeping. A lot of countries are not sleeping at all. We are very, very cognizant of the areas that we had, those are weak points, but we are really strengthening all those areas, courtesy of the AFCFTA. So Ethiopia is aware and they're doing very well there. So a lot is being done, but a lot more still needs to be done. All hands just need to be on deck for us to feed Africa and to feed the world. Thank you very much.
That was pretty insightful and very beautiful. I mean, a lot of take-home action points, insights, to-dos, you can name it. Once again, please put your hands together for everyone, please. Thank you so much, and of course, like it is our tradition for Agsef 2023, we'd like to celebrate you and of course present you with a plaque for your contribution in agriculture in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I feel like she can be an encyclopedia, literally. As I was listening to her, it dawned on me that one of the roles I play in Africa is gather several people that are handling different areas. And as I listened to her, I knew why she had to be here. So thank you very much, Mike. Indeed, an honor to all of us and the African Government Stakeholders Engagement Forum. Thank you. I'm good. You're holding us hostage. Thank you very much, Mike.
All right, so I was just a little reminder of the African dream because it's very, very important. Just like we have the American dream, we also should look forward to, igniting the African dream. Now, African dream is that one day Africa will become one big nation that can compete comparatively with global economies, this time as a superpower, uniting our resources, both mineral and natural and human, to produce immeasurable wealth, stewarded by astute yet accountable leaders who can deliver Africa where every African citizen is a treasure. And of course, just to really what Mr. said, that a lot of us, having to take whatever is being brought to us from the Western world, but we can also rise and have the African standard. Once again, we still have the African government stakeholder engagement program, and of course, we're going to have a panel session shortly with the government, of course, at the corner. So we'll have to. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much.
All right. So for the panel session, I'd like to bring up again Mrs. Anavan, please. Please put your hands together as she comes on stage. You can make it richer and louder. Thank you so much, ma'am. And of course, can I have Madam President, Madam Just Umama Ibe, and of course, shortly, Mr. Pimedi Kora will join us on the panel. But for now, we have Madam President, of course, Anavan. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again for coming to this year's African Government Stakeholders Engagement Forum. Mr. Femi, it's a pleasure to have you join us. Very brief panel conversation. Yes. Okay, thank you very much for having us here. I'm going to ask specific questions. There's something you said, and I took note. I said she needs to tell us about that project that fell through. And that's because it's not a coincidence that Mr. Dapo was here. He now sits in that position. So it means that we can sort of get things working again if we can get 40 byproducts. For me, I'm seeing the entire value chain, the number of employments, the amount of money to add to our GDP. That's all I was seeing when you were telling me that. So if you could please shed more light on that project and what you think we can do to take it back from there.
Okay. The chairman of the group, the chairman of the Agriculture and Allied Group of the Lagos Chamber at the time, along with the executives, came up with a company that was incorporated, I think, called Coconut Ventures. And because I was very close to them and they knew what I could do and what my focus in agriculture was, I was made the manager. My mandate at the time was to screen all those who applied, who expressed interest in activities in the cluster, was going to be a processing cluster. And then I was to meet with them and get to see what they would want to do there. Just so you don't have people just come in there, take up space, and we had very crazy fears. Come and start leasing of government land that was leased to you. So we wanted to have people who really understood what they were coming there to do. And like I said, that experience was awesome for me. I'm not the kind of person that loses opportunities for experience. So I may not be making a lot of money, but I pack up a lot of experience. So that talking to some of those who expressed interest, I got to know long before some of the information came out in the public about what we could do with coconut. All those husks, all those coconut meat, coconut milk, coconut water, coconut. I was baffled when a female, a doctor from another group entirely applied for space to process the water. So I'm like, hey, what do you want to do with it? How, what, she said it's for intravenous solution. And I'm like, in Nigeria. She said, no, she's exporting everything. Why? You're a medical doctor. We don't have, people cannot afford drip and all of that. She said, my colleagues, the conventional doctors, will fight me to the ground. They will bury me before I sell one bag of that intravenous solution. But I went to school in Europe. That's where I did my training as a medical doctor. All the primary health centers, that is what they use. And yes, and they import from the Caribbean. So I know where I'm going. It hits me really, really hard. When my daughter was recovering from appendicitis surgery, I kept every pack of the intravenous drip that she was given, just so I can compare what the packs will look like when they are processed. Coconut water I'm talking about. So these are the global sizes of intravenous solutions. So if we are going to compete with them with our coconut water, I still have them in my house. And there were so many others. Now we are beginning to see substrates being made from coconut husk. Is a huge market, especially for those in the nursery sector of the business. So we use them, to make cocoa peat. And this time last year, cocoa peat was like maybe 5,000. I bought a month ago 11,500. So you can imagine what I'm saying. And I passed through towns, and because I've traveled a lot lately, and I'm seeing the waste, the obscene waste of coconut husk. People just want to drink the coconut or eat the water or sell the coconut itself. The husk will just throw it, and no young person can see what I'm saying. And nobody's asking you to come and pay. Just pick it, process, sell. So there's a lot there. I've spoken with Mr. Oladapo, and he says we are going to, yes, there is a huge market to buy those husks. Huge market. A very huge market. A very huge market. So Mr. Oladapo has said he's going to call me and we're going to have that meeting and get back to it. But that is one. The Akwa Ibom State government established an 11,000 hectare land for coconut plantation. A lot of the seeds that were nursed for seedling for that plantation were imported. When we have Lascopa, when we have NIFO, it's a disgrace. And I watched, very sad, heartbroken, that we could not get those seedlings from Nigeria. There's nothing Mr. Oladapo is going to tell me. I have been to where their nursery is. They cannot feed the market that requires coconut. And let me tell you that we import coconut. There are trucks, several trucks, waiting to be offloaded from the Seme border into Badagry, full of coconuts. Full of coconuts. Full of coconuts. There are so many things we can do. It starts from us calling ourselves to order. I want to come my own story. You have master classes
academies where they compare collaboration. But they call it, it doesn't give them all the training. They give them academy first, help us on board,
It's something that Greenport Nigeria will work towards. As an executive director in the business, we are very, very conscious of the fact that the way we are doing agriculture cannot attract the young people. We need to show them all these areas that no one is looking, but they are not back-breaking activities, and they're actually good, profitable activities. So we want to do that, and we are having a training center for lots of master classes in Abeokuta, and we are kicking off any moment from next month.
we spoke about food sufficiency, food sovereignty, and you said here in Africa, so how do you reach let alone security, let alone from your experience as a smallholder farmer, what would you say the government should do for smallholder farmers that will increase our capacity to get to sufficiency even if it's like because I believe that we're going to have conversation after here, we do the conversation with government and all of these things. What I'm asking this question, I want to know also in terms of policy, aside from the actual agricultural strategy. I want to see what sort of policies can be implemented and will strengthen the ability of smallholder farmers because we seem to have them a lot more than the commercial farmers. So that means the focus must be on those guys. What must we do? When I'm done, you should also share.
Okay, thank you very much. I think there are a lot of things that the government must do to actually ensure that the goal of increasing food sufficiency in terms of the quantity of food in supply can be increased. And I mean, locally speaking, the government can also decide to actually say we want to invest our money to bring food in from outside. That's actually a means to actually increase the food supply. But if we want to actually focus on the local capacity, increasing our local capacity, and focusing on the smallholder farmer, the smallholder farmer, like we know, they are key to our food system. They are key. So what I would like to see that the government do, there are a lot of policies uh, that are limiting the growth of agriculture generally in Nigeria, and those who suffer the impact are actually the smallholder farmer. These are the people who bear the risks and the bonding. They are the most vulnerable in the value chain. And that's because of fragmented systems. It will always lie on them, be it from the production or to the supply. It's always on them. When there is drought, it is on them. When there is flooding, it is on them. When there is price crash of produce in the market, it is all on them. They do not have negotiating power. They do not have negotiating power. Now the question is, and that's because of their system. When you are small, you are small. It gives you limitation, and that's the fact. You cannot, even in a company where you have a small part of thing, you know, and those who have big share, they speak, their voice is heard more than you. So, and because these people are actually small, when they negotiate as individuals, and the power to negotiate lies on the person who actually, I mean, who is a bigger person in the negotiation, on the negotiation table. And also, the smallholder farmer are the people that buy their inputs at retail prices. But they are the same set of people when they produce, when they have their output, they sell at wholesale. So you can see that there's this fragmented system. The system is just against them to actually keep them where they are. And that's because they are small and individual, this fragmented. Now, it's not because smallholder farming is not, as it still remains, this smallholder farmers still feed us when we put all of the foods together. But when it talks about individual economic livelihood that we are talking about, they are actually disadvantaged. Now, how can we actually solve? We're not saying that when I actually advocate for them to scale, it is for them to scale. Like, how can now? It might not. We have different means of actually achieving that. Like Mama Edubong mentioned, clustering is important. Either you move from 1 hectare to 100, or you gather yourself, you still have 1 hectare and you have 100 farmers farming in the same place, farming together. If you can be able to have that critical mass of people with cluster farming, aggregation, like Mr. Oladapo mentioned, we should be able to have a farm estate that gives the farmer that cooperative and corporate voice. When they produce rice, you are not going to the market and selling at one person and one middleman who has not actually gone to the farm, who doesn't know what it means to actually farm, tell you this is how much I'm going to be buying your store. If you don't buy it, please get out. That's it. So if it is true cluster farming that we want to actually go with, so that we can be able to help accentuate the voice of this farmer, give them the capacity when they also come together, not only in selling, but even doing buying inputs, because input is necessary. Agriculture is about input production. You need to actually supply something to get something out. When they buy this input, I mentioned the other time, they buy in retail. But when they come together, as a cluster, they can be able to leverage on the economies of scale. That's the point. Agriculture is about economies of scale. If I am planting one seed of maize, like I said the other time, and I'm getting 100, it's not the only 100. Like, I know that I planted 1,000 of that. What about planting 1 million? It's that multiplier effect. So economies of scale, we can be able to leverage on that. They can also be able to quickly enjoy the benefit of technology. Because what's the essence of technology that does not promote you to grow larger? That's the point of technology. My drone technology that I'm promoting, which in 10 minutes would do 10 hectares of land. And I'm just being modest. In 9 minutes, we've done 1.5 hectare of land, spraying, protecting crops on 1.5 hectare of land, compared to a farmer who is actually carrying 20 liters of knapsack, walking around the whole day and spraying, and also exposing themselves to potentially hazardous chemicals. But the question is, me as a service provider, I will not come to 1 hectare of land because I say I want to do business. When within 10 minutes I've sprayed your land, I want 1,000 hectares of land because that is how I'm going to make my own money back with my technology, and that's what will make sense to me. So if they can be able to come together, that critical mass, it will make service those who are providing mechanization services, digitization services, processing, make it easier for them. I mean, it's not magic. Magic cannot happen that small that farmer just like, bam, you have 100 million naira today, and you're like, I want to grow 500 hectares of land. It can't. I mean, I don't see how that's possible. So I mean, easily. But when they come together, and I believe that it is the government that can ensure the development of these hubs, these clusters. It is the government. If the government actually sits up to their responsibility as food security is our business, and to ensure that if food security is our business and the business of the farmer is to do business and make profit, let's ensure that their business also thrive to ensure food security, which is our own goal. It's a circular stuff. If the farmer makes money this year, he will come back. If he does not make money this year, he will not come back. Or perhaps he will not grow as big as the way he has grown. And it will affect the food supply. It's just mathematics to those things. This is how things play. Oh, when the price crashed this year, cassava, the farmer who plants 10 hectares will say, oh, it's price this year. First of all, the money is expecting to reinvest back into the farm has reduced. Number two, it doesn't have the motivation to actually still invest it again. I'm like, what happens next year again? I don't even know. So the government is actually the one who is to facilitate the trust in this cluster farming, creating the enablement. Okay, parcel of land. And this is something about the smallholder farming in the environmental sustainability part. Do you know that smallholder farming is the cause of deforestation more in Nigeria, in Africa? But if the government actually have, okay, this is the place we are dedicating for this, and they actually clear it, provide irrigation, provide what they need, the input sellers that can easily give them input, that they don't need to actually spend 20% of their production cost as transportation logistics to take input into their farm or to actually take it outside.
Sorry, Mr.
There's a lot
Femi.
of things.
Sorry to pause you. AJ, I need you to record what he's saying. I'm going to put this out and call the attention of the president, the minister. I need them to hear this because one of the solutions to what he's saying is town planning in a way that allows access to cluster farming. That way, I want you to say it again in that way so that we can put it out and be deliberate about calling the attention of the stakeholders.
So I am saying that the government needs to actually facilitate this cluster, this orb, because this orb ensures that farmers can be able to come together, and it's to the end that the government can create an enabling environment for these small farmers to strive. When they create like a hub, we could call it farm estate, whatever name or nomenclature we want to call it, or a place where, okay, I only have 2 hectares of land in this. There is actually, it's easier for extension officer to visit. It's easier for input dealers to actually visit. Fertilizer producers, they know where to go. As a matter of fact, they can even blend specific fertilizer, not just the usual 10, 15, 15, 15. That one itself is actually limiting productivity. Oh, but you are planting cassava there. This is exactly the fertilizer, a blend that that this cassava needs. How specific? They can be able to supply it, or not the one planting. Oh, Oshodi. Oh, this one is in this one. So it's not easy. But when we can be able to have them all together in a place, the farmers can be able to have one voice when they harvest. They can be able to have easy cooperative. We know that we are close to each other. We can see what we are doing. We can be able to push a voice. Okay, this is how much we can sell this thing. The government can be able to regulate things easily also. So that cluster farming would be able to help farmers. Like the administration mentioned in the agenda. I mean, this what's the name? It called it emergency food security emergency, the state of emergency on food security. I mean, I read creation of agricultural hub. I'm still waiting. Yeah, I want to believe that they're going to, but the earlier the better. When they are able to clear those clusters, they'll be able to identify a place. Okay, this is good. And farmers are not just poaching from one point. Oh, I've used this land. They clear another place for themselves. Struggle to actually clear that. But when the government actually do that, we can be able to have that community that can strive, that can be able to grow, and there will be a proper arrangement and systems in place to ensure that the farmer is protected. Insurance company can also come to that call. Even when there is flood, even when there is drought, they know that their yield is protected. Service providers also, technology service provider like us, providing drone technology services, providing mechanization, they can be able to also come. Aggregators, food processors, they can be able to come to that hub and be able to do business, with a group of people, making it easy for value chain, the ease in the value chain from farmer to the processor and also to the consumer. It makes sense that way.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. President, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. What we have discussed here today is an opportunity to make Nigeria a food sufficient nation, and by extension, create a roadmap that other African countries can emulate so that Africa can become not just a food sufficient continent, but also food sovereign. And what we have mentioned here is Nigeria has, to a very large extent, over 40% of unused arable lands. If we are deliberate about turning these arable lands into clusters for agriculture by stating specific crops and their produces, then it means that we can leverage these five thematic areas to increase not just our agricultural exports and be able to add better value to this entire agricultural value chain. But also, it will give us as a people an opportunity to increase our GDP such that we're not just all dependent. We now look at what is very potent, what is very valuable and valuable for that matter. But most importantly, that will create an avenue for our youth to become fully employed. I know that your administration wants to tackle employment for young people. This is an opportunity, and all we ask is that clusters be made available for agriculture so that we can truly go fully into the full value chain of that agriculture and get the best out of it. Thank you very much, sir. We look forward to your honorable consideration of what we have shared here today. I would like for you to speak about, he talked about the voices of the farmers not being heard, especially the smallholder farmers. What platforms do you think we can start with that will not just be bureaucratic, that will truly be their voices heard? How can we start?
Thank you very much. Very good question. In a lot of ways, there is rural social governments, and what we need to do is tap into that thread. Working with smallholder farmers for over 10 years now has exposed me to a lot of things. This individualism, we need to find how we got there. Because when there was no relative government in the rural area, there was a rural economy. You will notice in the south, I know much about in the south, but I think it also was in the north, that when there are seasonal crops, for instance, they will designate different parts of the villages. It's your turn. Next turn will be this one. Next turn will be this one. They were doing that to manage gluts. So we never heard there was glut in maize. We never heard there was glut in cassava. Because not everybody was going to the market. So they were designated communities to harvest at any particular time. That was how they managed the rural economy, including fruits. If local pear is in season, it's not every village that will harvest at the same time. It will be the turn of this village, then at the turn of the next village, then the roaster, including palm. So you would never hear of glut in any of those crops. Now we are having gluts everywhere, and we cannot explain it. Because when agriculture was no longer important and it was making people poor in the rural areas, many preferred to send their children off to school, and when they got to school, they never came back. So it was now becoming a hobby. They have to go to the farm. They have to do something so that they can take something to the market to sell. And that's how we came to where we are today. Cluster allows you to manage some of these consequences. Essentially because for us to scale up production through clusters, we need to scale up industrial agriculture because that is the feeder of what all these efforts. Agriculture, let's go back to the government. We are so used to something at the federal, but in the constitution, agriculture is not in the exclusive list, meaning that the local government, the state government also has authority over agriculture in their different entities. So it's not about the federal government now. The biggest problem we have are the states and the local governments. All the work that the federal government is doing cannot translate to any success if the states and the local governments don't pick, because the farmers are. No, they shouldn't make it an exclusive list. It still would not solve the problem because the federal government cannot reach out to every farmer. But the local, The local government, you are the one that knows your farmers, but they do absolutely nothing in this place. If you go to every local government area, there is a councillor in charge of agriculture. If you go to the state, there is a commissioner. And if you take that to the with their mandates to the level of productivity, you will discover that we have not gone anywhere. Cluster is good, but I want it to be driven by the local government and the state government because there is just so much the federal government can do. And don't forget that there's a whole lot of trust deficit when federal government wants to do anything cluster. So let the local government set up clusters. Let the state government set up clusters. The federal government can support them. Let's have our jobs cut out for us so that we are all not running to fish in the same pond. Let's know who owns canoe. Let's know who owns fishing net and the person that is going to be a fisherman. We need to distribute those things. Otherwise, we are all just running to where it looks good for the media and it's not getting us anywhere. And it will not get us anywhere. Easy things to do, we make it very complex here. The minister should be able to sit with all the commissioners of agriculture and say, guys, this is what the federal government is looking at. How does it touch your state? What do you think your state can take up? Or what do you think you can do with this? What do you think you can do with that? Because you want to spread, federal concern, 36 states plus. It is those state commissioners that should go back to their states, mobilize all the local government councillors in charge of agriculture, disseminate the information, have a plan, put it in action, and we are able to see things going. The rural farmers are not difficult to manage. They have their peculiarities, and you really need to understand they have been deceived too many times. Too many times. So you can't do this good and come and be talking to the cassava farmer. He is wondering whether you know anything about cassava, even when you know more than we do. But it's only when we are able to get their own people, which is the local government, to touch base with. That is when they will accept me. And they don't know me, they need to be trained on many things. They still tell me that is our grandfathers used to do. You're not living the life of your grandfather. If your grandfather was to live now, he would have done better because there's more information. They don't know about before they even scale in terms of land size. They need to scale in terms of land productivity. They need to know about plant distance. They don't know plant distance. If I tell them you need to do like 10,000 stands of your maize in 1 acre to make sense, they are looking at me like I'm mad. No, they have some space in the maize. And I tell them, no, the maize does not require that kind of space because it's growing up. That's one. Number two, it will save you from weeding because when there's no space, weed will not come. They don't understand that. The same stress you go to put 20,000, sorry, 2,000 stands of maize on your acre is the same resources that you would have done 20,000 and you would get more. You wouldn't understand that. I agree. Let government do what it needs to do. I totally agree with that. Until the private involved in essential services, that we really cannot reach out to those rural farmers. And what is the private sector looking for? Profitability. How am I going to set up a system for essential service? And where am I going to get the money from? Who is going to pay for my service? But we can make it simple. Like I said, we put them together. It doesn't have to be in one place. They just know where they are. All the maize farmers in this area, all the cocoa farmers in this area, the other allied partners will move in. The import provider will move in. The ABDACs, I'm just looking at the quality people, they will move in, including the wholesalers. They will know where to go get a whole truckload that will make their day. Every farming activity has a minimum commercial quantity or a minimum commercial volume. So crops like cocoa, when you do 1 hectare, maybe you are doing nursery. Because if you cannot carry it in a trailer, you've not started. the same cost. You will, that's what trailer will charge you, not because it is full, but because that's what I'm using. So they need to understand a lot of all those things so that we can, for us that are promoting cluster farming in Greenport, Nigeria, what we are trying to, we're attracting are the industrial agribusinesses. We understand that market. We understand that they are very particular about standard quality. They are very particular about, to go to from Oyigbo to be able to get one trailer of how many baskets of tomato. They want to be able to get that in one spot. We can help the rural farmers, the smallholder farmers, even in their small holdings. If they do better, they will get better.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask one final question and then we'll go to the next part of this agenda. You spoke about our internal quality control system earlier, how that there's a lot of global certifications and quality control. What about ours for Africa? So if you were to sit on the board of AFTA today, what are the top three things you would consider as policies that Africans should put as their own, as part of their own internal control systems?
Well, I wouldn't say internal control. It has to be an African quality control. And I know that some work is being done there. Because they do have a platform for that. So represented by all the countries contributing from our NAFDAC is there, our standard organization is there. So they are all there contributing to ensure that end of the day, we bring out an African standard. So we are very hopeful that we will have that. But there's a wide range of products to cover. Agriculture is just one sector. So we are looking to see all the things that they will come up. But we are happy to see that the dialogue is going on. The contributions are really encouraging, and a lot of things are going to come out. So we know that, and it also will help all the partners. For instance, coconut that we're talking about. When we have like 2, 3, 4, 5 coconut species that are African, designated African, so the research people will know what they are churning out. So we'll be improving, we keep improving on that. We're just improving, we already have what we want. And what are we looking for? We're looking for more butter? Are we looking for more milk? Are we looking for more? Are we looking for, what are we looking for? All that conversation is going on right now in the units provided for that after. So we are very, very hopeful that they are going to come up very well. But if I was there, I would call for not only the outcome of all the conversation, I will also call for the dissemination of information, and I will also call for the capacity building and the awareness for opportunities for all those initiatives and innovations that are going to come up. That will be very key for me on that conversation table.
Thank you so very much. One final word from you to us at Agsef and to everyone who is watching, private and public stakeholder alike. One final word from you to us.
I don't really know about when I was invited. I didn't know what about it. I heard it before, but I didn't know much. So I want to congratulate you. You're doing great work, trying to get this platform going, and I don't want it to be just a conference talk. I want it to be something that your blog can continue the conversation, where people will be tagged, where Twitter, what do you call it now? No, spaces will have that in the conversations, and then yes, the Twitter space. We can have it on YouTube. You can have your YouTube channel, and you could pick up lots of what's been discussed between yesterday and today, and continue the conversation in a deeper, just so that end of the day we can have what people can actually have practical, knowledge. I can actually take a practical knowledge. Now I can say, okay, Femi is not looking for one isolated acre. So I can go tell my people, look, let's do the costing for what you do manually, and let's what Femi wants to do for us. And let's see whether we are not penny wise pound foolish. We need to continue this conversation in a deeper way. But congratulations for
Thank you
successful.
so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we will. We will. Mr. Femi, please, any final words from you to us at Access and private and public stakeholders alike?
All right. Thank you very much. This is actually amazing, and for us to actually have conversation around this, it's actually very important. Like Mama said, we need conversations like this to actually go on, to actually reveal the truth, and not just reveal the truth, to actually get the truth in our face, so that we can be able to. It can be normative, like just for us to actually do right by and this is actually what Access is actually doing and promoting. We want you to do more, and we I'm very hopeful that things are changing already, and that's why we're actually having this conversation. Things are changing, and this is the beginning. And I believe that we would look back to this time and or this conference, and we would say it all started here. This was actually part of the
home and clear it because by the next day, the fractions we have in the market to where we will sell them. So I literally grew up seeing my parents raise all of us with money made from the agricultural sector, but there were a couple of challenges we could see. So for my grandmother, her major concern was the fact that a lot of people were struggling to adopt like value-added agricultural products, and that was because they felt like farming was it for them. So she rechanneled her energy to value addition and made so much money out of the process. For my dad, something he saw very well was that a lot of farmers struggle to pay him, so they come to get this implement before the start of the planting season, and they are only able to pay him back at harvest. And situations where they're like inflation in prices of agricultural produce, they're not able to pay him, so he has to also forgive them because he also can see the situation of things. And someone like my mom, at the end of the day, she started this thing to just help women in the market. So instead from us having food stuff in the house, my mom would always have food stuff to people to the point where we now even have people pay her to advertise agricultural products and then send to them. So we would process vegetables, we process tomatoes, that was always started with, we process meat because it was like very easy for us to get there, you know. So I pretty much grew up in a family where everybody was doing agriculture. So by the time I was done and I moved into the university in 2017, I went to work with the Biotechnology Center. And in the Biotechnology Center, that was the first time I full time saw there were a lot of opportunities. So for me, I felt like what my parents and my grandma were doing, they were like basic agribusiness, everybody's doing that. But by the time I got to the center, I saw that there were so many agricultural opportunities. And I kept wondering, this is why you are doing this thing. Why everybody talking about tech and everybody talking about this organic thing? You know, that was the first time I saw a mushroom farm. I learned how to grow mushroom. I saw that everything used in producing mushroom and things we identified as waste. I saw how I grew the snail farm, which was my project in internship, from 100 snails to over 2,000 snails within 6 months. Because we got these snails from the wild, apparently, and that was their season, the rainy season. So they don't kept multiplying. So like, this can't be agribusiness and people are not talking about it. And lastly, we did something about planting propagation. So I saw those scientists break in plantains in their small form and they are able to break them in by micropropagating it so that there are so many seedlings to now take back to the field. So it comes in like maybe five, and by the time they are taking it out of the center, like 50, 100. And I was like, wow, so this is how people practically multiply their plantation. And I told myself, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do agriculture. I got out there speaking to my friends, and everybody, the thing for us then was, first of all, go take an online training because we were students. And we did a browse on the internet, and that was where it clicked to us that for agriculture, there was no single platform you could go to access agricultural information. So we had Coursera, we had Udemy, but there was none, you know. And I remember that day in my room, I told my friends, I think I'm going to build the online farm school for Africa since this is lacking. And they're like, please, keep doing tech, keep doing tech. And that's how I started and got into the agricultural sector at 19.
We put our hands together. At my team, her colleagues were tech and all those other things. I was like, she saw opportunities here. I mean, I heard you talking about how that you planted. I mean, you started with 100 skills and eventually 3,000. How big was the plot of
Actually, it was not a plot of land. So within the Biotechnology Center, they had this field. So first, this particular week, we were done with our work in the mushroom farm, and they said all interns go behind and clear the bush. So we finished clearing the bush, and there was this part of it that had this box. So we saw soil in it, and what we did was we went back and we browsed and said, okay, if you want to start a snail farm, you're either looking for sawdust to use, or you can break soil and sterilize them. And then we went to pack soil and we had soil from the bush, and then we sterilized it and we brought it into very small space. And the next thing we did was, how do we get snails? And they said, oh, snails are in the field. And we had to browse on how to harvest snails in the field. Like, but when it's funny, you set traps. That was when we learned to set traps. So we all set traps and went to different bush within the University of Nigeria, so can we kept it. And like by the next day, we went back. This was because all set pause, but then course, for them, it should not be like really soft. It should just be enough for them to keep them within, keep it under, because then when they come out, they see the purpose of really there. The next day, you snails everywhere. You brought it back to the center. That was when I got to know the different species of snails. That's when I got to know there were garden snails, there were edible snails, and in the edible snails there were different species. You saw the ones who had big eggs, which were like maybe those ones were laying 30 to 50. They weren't laying so much. All of this particular species that was laying in hundreds, and they were like smaller eggs for us. When we saw that, we reached out to a researcher in the lab to say this is what we are seeing in the snails with, and he also led us to how to incubate those eggs, or cover them in that area, put them in the mushroom farm, make sure that it's cool, get leaves, cover it, and we will come back and that was again multiplying. This was in very, I would say, pack 6 times, and pack like six of these tiles together. That's like the location we were using for all of this. And we just had to set them up in trees and just kept sterilizing the soil. But we also saw a lot of challenges as to why a lot of people were using soil, because we always had to sterilize because of ants. That's when we got to see that the whole thing can take a building down, but ants can take the nails out. There were just so many learnings from that process. But what we were using was a very small space within the center.
Knowledge is key. Knowledge is power. Every time rain falls in my house, there's always a flood of snails just in my compound. Not a big compound. And my kids will be, "Mommy, six snails in my mind, and they are too small, they're not edible, they're big enough." Right? And hearing how that with just certain information you can move what looks like small to a lot. That's very huge. So in your academy, do you have, what sort of materials do you have in your academy for agriculture?
So when we started the academy, the first thing we did was look out for information that were online, and we started collating them together. I remember the first because I made was just helping people gather information, write information, give them links to PDFs, give them links to research made by Nigerians, give them links to the books I found online and links to videos on YouTube. So it was like, it's not going to spend your time being on the internet. I'm going to do the work of typing everything for you, and then just one document.
There's a reason why I'm spotlighting this interview. There are lots of young Africans who are watching. This is the value chain. It's in agriculture. She just chose the extension part, which is education, if I'm correct. And then she's not producing all the classes. She's not teaching all the classes. She doesn't know everything. She just knows how to find the right information, plug and play for you to learn. I think that one of the other things that you can also do to add to your document is find specific internship centers and companies where you can go and attach themselves after learning those things so that they can get
Very beautiful. In fact, more like the document, something we started seeing and getting as feedback was most of those content documents are like more international documents. That was when I first saw that a lot of Africans who are doing amazing in the agricultural sector, especially when it comes to farming business, do not document their information. That was when I said, you know what, it's time for us to now start creating our own content. And that was when we started having a customer as a business to say, is there a way we can create localized content that meets local standards about African ecosystem? Because some of this content we're giving out to these people, we know that they have to tweak it, and so that took us on a different journey. So we had to put the correct model and tell looking for how to create content. But it was difficult because a lot of farmers struggle with accepting the fact that digitize agri information. But some of them, street secrets, right? So, it made so much sense to when she mentioned this in Greek and the first speaker mentioned trade secret. Like he never thought that could be one of the biggest reasons, and it made us struggle a lot with getting farmers who were willing to create content for us. And I remember really that was one of our biggest farmers there in Nasarawa State, because I had to move to Nasarawa State to work with more farmers. And wow. And then he told me something. He said, "You see my issue with you creating this content. We work with youth that once they know how to expand in the things. I create this content, allowing you to create this content. 2 years, man, every single person here going to find business.
and then they might want to be everywhere, and I'll be struggling with sales. So for them, it was evident to me that they understood that digitizing information was one way to get the youth to kill every form of monopoly in the sector. And it was just a struggle for us. And that was how we had to make a switch as a business to say, see, we cannot provide farming education, practical farming education at this phase. We rather wait for the sector to mature to the point where people can trust us with that kind of information. We are able to find a way to provide this information without leaking out people's personal business secrets. Then we focused on what are the other ways people can make money from agriculture that has nothing to do with farming and they can start with low funds. And that was when we started creating shorter courses that focused on value-added agri businesses. So it started like a simple Facebook, Instagram post where we say 5 ways you can make money from poultry without owning a poultry farm. I would say sell poultry eggs, sell poultry meat, start selling poultry dongs. That became the whole business for us. And when we started that, we realized that we would come to Instagram and see 3 likes and then 78 saves. And it just told a lot that people people wanted it, and we were people's biggest secret as a platform, where people bigger and top secret as a platform, and we kept doing that on social media. Then last year, we were able to now speak to another organization to say, see, we want to now rechannel our academy to focus on value-added agri businesses. We realize that if people go into value-added agri businesses, it's going to bring in more market for farmers. Farmers will no longer struggle for market for their produce because everybody's doing value added. It means everybody's going to become best friends to the farmer because they are trying to buy it from the farmer. And then our farmers can focus on productivity. So when we found that as our solution, and beyond that, helping the farmer, we were reducing food, post harvest loss. We were giving people youth the opportunity to get into agriculture in like their little fund. We're also helping people to even make their homes more efficient because by adding value to produce, it even makes your own house more organized. If you see your yam spoiling, you know what next to do to the yam. And when we found that and we pitched that to a couple of funders, we got the first set of funding to scale that in 2023. This which we started and like we got a lot of recognition, I would say, from even like the African market to say, hey, what you're doing is amazing. We see the goal and I think we want to support you to increase this. Let's take this to universities. Let's take this to secondary schools. In April, we took it to secondary school. We took 300 Lagosians and we trained them on processing and packaging agri businesses. So we took online courses on our platform and we had a physical demonstration center for one day. And for those students, when we had feedback, because they taught them tech, we ensured they taught them tech, we ensured they taught them photography, and then we taught them agri processing. And at the end, you start getting feedback to say, you have to start if you have to start a business, what we did from your learning. These are people we taught software engineering, we taught them, but I'm going to start a business. So for us, it just told a lot that child will say no to farming, but he's going to say yes to processing. But as that child continues to grow and begin to see more market, he will definitely have to go back to the farm because that's the only way he can meet the target in this market.
Please, can we put our hands together for Lucy, please? Oh wow. Lucy, thank you for reaching out to me. Honestly, I feel like this was the icing we needed to be able to carry young people along with this year's conference. So talk to me about profitability. Because earlier you mentioned that you put your first 6 figures just putting information together. But beyond that, talk to me about profitability. Talk to me also about how empowering this entire phase of life has been for you, right? When I say empowering, in terms of how that's taken your very existence from what it used to be to what it is now. I hear you collected an award not long ago. Talk to us about that entire journey from profit to now being an inspiring young lady that a lot of people now look up to.
Okay, just last night I was speaking with my friend who works as a demand planner for a manufacturing company, and I told her that someone asked me a question that how has agriculture changed me, and I reflected. I got my first fully funded trip within Nigeria from agriculture. I got my first grant from agriculture. I got my first scholarship from agriculture. I got my first use of a plane from agriculture. I made my first 100,000 naira from agriculture. I got my first job from agriculture. It's amazing how I started my first business through agriculture. So there's so much agriculture has done for me. I got my first international trip funding from agriculture. I got to attend my first international conference from agriculture. I got my first international award from agriculture. I got my first international funding from agriculture. And it just tells a lot that there's so much opportunity in the agricultural space for those who decide to stay, who decide to focus on learning, and those who do not box themselves. I know some of the mistakes I made at the early stage of what I was doing was boxing myself to my particular solution. So when I came into the space, I was like, it has to be farming school, and I wasn't listening to what was the market saying. What is the market looking for? What are people trying to learn? What are people trying to know? I wasn't speaking to stakeholders. I wasn't following up on stakeholders. I was in isolation, right? But everything changed for me when I said, you know what, enough of isolation. It's time to communicate. It's time to unlearn in the process. And this is something I want to always encourage youth. Agriculture is beautiful, but you have to be open to learning, unlearning, pick from the old. While we are trying to innovate for our generation, it's very important for us to pick from the old. And this was something I did not do when I started. But by the time I started listening to the old, it started making sense to me that, oh, this is the reason why this was not working. Sitting here today, I just heard from both of them that trade secret is an important reason why a lot of farmers will not allow you to come and shoot all of your content on their farm, because it also means that they are giving out their trade secret, right? So I would tell people agriculture has a lot of opportunity. For me, it has changed me, right? Agriculture moved me from 0 to 10 to 100. It has gotten me to sit with senators. It has gotten me to sit with governors. It has gotten me to sit in political offices I would naturally not have gotten into from the kind of home I'm coming from, right? And I told and my friend said something in the middle of all of this conversation. I said, and agriculture is going to make you sit with president, and it's going to make you work with government, and it's going to take you to the UN house. And I'm like, that's the goal, because food security is an important conversation. And I believe that if I continue on learning, and just listening to people and not doing things by the virtue of what I think like growth is sure. And it's not just for me, it's for like any other person who wants to go into the agricultural sector as a youth. Our parents are doing this before us. But coming into we want to change it, we have to first of all listen to them, hear what they are doing, now what was not working for them, what were the solutions they were using, how can we now fix it to fit us, but also not losing out on them. Because the reason why a lot of you farmers are fighting against technology is they don't know why we are bringing technology. For them, is we are going through the lazy route. So we have to understand how they are solving it and then explain to them why this technology is better, you know. So it's just a whole lot of learning process for me. And I think like if you'd focus on learning rather than just trying to jump and become kings and also thought experts and all of that, we'll be able to do so much in the agricultural sector together.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A few challenges. Tell me, what are the few challenges you've experienced, and if you were to piggyback, how would you do it differently?
I think one of the biggest challenge that I faced was data. I realized there were not so much data in the agricultural sector. I think the second challenge I faced as an individual was not learning some skills. I would start by saying communication skills. So because it limited me when I got into rooms where they were like, okay, you say you want to do this thing, you want to bring agriculture online. How do you want to go about it? Not being able to communicate how I wanted to go about it, was also a major challenge for me. On a general scope of things, I'm one of the last persons to say funding is a challenge, right? Maybe because I have firsthand seen how increasing my pitching skills have gotten me access to funding. I rather say soft skills are some of the skills that if I'm to go back in, I would start by improving my soft skills so that when I get into tables and get into rooms, I'm able to use them, listening, communicating in the right way, and maybe my leadership skills. Because you know we youth are very big in saying, say what you want to say, be very free to say. But when you get into rooms, there's nothing wrong. You don't say what you want to say. You listen to how people are speaking and then make your own point in the same pattern so that it's easier for them to listen to you. So these are some of the things that I wish I'd learned earlier so that when I get into rooms and everybody say, farmers have to go to the farm, and then I come back to say, hey, when you go to the farm to learn, what do? You take pictures, you create videos so that you can remember these things when you go back to your house. This is what we are trying to do when we say we want to bring content online. And it's easier for them to listen and come and say, what teacher got you online? You don't need to be on. Take that lady out of here.
Put our hands together for her again. Oh wow. Young ladies, young men, there is a system of communication, especially with stakeholders. You can be young, you can be talented, you can be maybe wealthy, but there's a system of communication with stakeholders, whether they are up there or down there. There's a system. And if you don't get these soft skills right, you'll be underrepresented in rooms that matter. And I think that this is one of the things that as young people, even in Nigeria and Africa, trying to advocate for good governance and leadership, we must learn how. They say how. Advocacy is great, but advocacy without strategy truly gets the stakeholders to listen will be noise. It will sound as a rebellion. And every time there's rebellion, there's resistance. And sometimes punishment that is unworthy. So it's important that we pay attention to soft skills. I love that it was her who said it, not me. I work with a lot of young people, and I see it a lot of times, even with some of the staff that report to me. But every time you try, they think you're attacking their personality, and they're quick to take mental health and all the different things. You see, so I like that a young person actually said it, that communication skills can push you out of rooms where your voice should be heard. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you
I
very
mean,
much.
this is a contact I want to keep for a long time because I want to watch her truly grow. Because this is really the beginning. As you mentioned, UN, president, all of these things will happen and more. Believe me, they will happen and more. Just be consistent and keep learning, relearning, and listening, like you mentioned. Final words. If you are speaking to a young lady or a young guy who is saying to you that no way in this Nigeria, I want to jack her, no opportunity, everything is hard. Fuel is seven, all the different things that are going on, which is true. How would you attempt to convince them that this soil is fertile? So give us like a 3 minutes elevator pitch to a young lady or a young guy who wants to get out and say this country is not working. Yeah.
I would say chaos is economy, and that's one of our biggest strengths in
Don't
Africa.
rush, don't rush, don't rush. Take it good.
Chaos is economy, and that's one of our
Chaos
biggest
is
strengths
economy.
in Africa. The fact that a lot of things don't work is the reason why there's money in the African continent. And rather than leave, I would say zero your mind on trying to make money and try or focus on seeking knowledge. How willing are you ready to serve? How long are you willing to serve? What's your patience level in serving? Even if you leave this nation,
Please get me AJ. He went downstairs. We didn't look at it. Can somebody use a phone? I want her to say this so that we can cut this snippet. That's why I can put microphone for the young people at the back here. Yes. Are you ready? Okay. We need you. Video. Go ahead. Okay. Are you ready? Okay, go ahead.
will be something that captures where you see yourself in the next 5 years in terms of your contribution to this sector and by extension this continent. Just what so almost as though you are trying to paint a vision of what is possible to it, right? Featuring your contribution in that vision as you progress. Does that make sense?
Okay, my final words would be agriculture is beautiful, but agribusiness is key. If you don't think agribusiness, you would not be able to thrive in the science of the sector. As an individual, it is possible for you to use technology to scale this. That world where we want to start an agribusiness and you are able to connect to the resources you need digitally is possible. That world where you want to sell products you made out of your learnings with the resources provided online is also very possible. Agriculture is the only sector that allows other niches and careers to sit in it. As a banker, anything you are, you can still play in the sector. So please get into the sector because this is the sector that is going to take us global. The world is waiting for us to feed, and Africa is the only continent that can feed the world. Thank you.
I think that was a beautiful way to wrap it up. Africa is the only place that can feed the world. Is the next frontier, is the last frontier. And we are trusted on us, both young, middle aged, and old, to be a part of this entire transformation. Lucy, we won't let you go without presenting to you an award to say thank you for coming. So, on behalf of the African Government Stakeholders Engagement Forum, we want to say thank you for coming to this year's conference. Very much. Okay, I think we have come to the end of today. I'm just going to give our closing remarks and also.
Sorry, before you do that, please, ma, you can't. Why now? Ma, please wait. Ma, you called me to work. Ma, let me work. Ma, you called me to work. Let me work. So can I, please put your hands together for Lucy and of course, Madam President, please. Make it louder, make it richer. Okay, and of course, I mean, it's only nice or better, it's only good that we water the person that has watered us. The only person that could have brought all of us together to ensure that we understand that, agriculture is a very, very important sector that can take us and make us global in our continent as a whole. Now, can I have Mr. Iri, please? Sir, please, can you come forward? Please put your hands together as he comes forward. He's the one that ensures the Madam President is able to function very well and effectively. So please, put your hands together. Make it louder, make it richer, because we like to honor and celebrate Madam President. And of course, it gives me a lot of delight to, who else? Who other would you like to present this to Madam President, if not her darling husband? So, sir, please come this way. Thank you. So I'd like to bring up Madam President of Agsef. Please put your hands together as you come forward.
All right. Thank you, Lady Jade. All right, and thank you to everyone that does this honorable occasion. I'd like to present this award to the president of Agsef, Just Omomo Ibe, for her contribution to the conference. And we want to say thank you for your immense contribution to this sector. And we know that there are other sectors you'll be discussing in the nearest future, but for agriculture, it's actually also a very pivotal truth to me because I'm also playing in that sector. I think I will be speaking to Mr. Femi later on because I'm also in the aerial drone space. So I want to say thank you to your contribution to Agsef, and we want to present this plaque to you for your contribution. Congratulations and well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sure we've had an amazing time today. And of course, the conversations will continue to be ongoing. I mean, and for me, I'll say that it's a privilege and a honor. And of course, an eye opener for me because I play in the media space, right? But having to understand that once this is on, there's still a platform that needs to make the world know that it's happening. So I consider myself privileged and blessed to be a part of this revolution that is beginning in Africa. So for our final remarks, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me again, Madam President of Agsef. Put your hands together, she comes for her closing remarks.
Thank you, everyone. This year has been more than phenomenal. I want to take, okay, we're taking pictures of everyone, right? Thank you, Ms. Edobong. Honestly, it's a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have arrowheads for Africa. When I need XYZ, I know those people to call. So it makes sense now to me why God is saying you are an aggregator. Gather the people. So in agri sector, I've gathered an army. I'm coming for you guys. In every sector, I will continue to gather an army until this continent becomes that which we have seen with our eyes. And my prayer is we will live in that Africa. We would hand that Africa to our children's children. Just our continuous dedication. Today, what you all did as speakers, as attendees, both online and physically, is lend your voice and your belief in the Africa of our dreams. And as we have rightly said here, what the African dream is, you have lent your voice, you have lent your support, you have also shown by your participation that you believe that that Africa is possible. And collectively, we'll continue to put our best foot forward until we as Africans, that which we have seen, but most importantly, until the globe begins to see Africa as truly what and who she is. To close, finally, I would like to recite again the African dream. I want you to live here with that dream ingrained in your heart. I have a dream that one day Africa will become one big nation that can compete with other nations, this time as a superpower that harnesses its mineral resources, its human resources, its natural resources, that produces immeasurable wealth. This time, stewarded by astute yet accountable leaders who can deliver an Africa where every African descendant is a treasure. This is my African dream. And I hope that as many of you who have joined the Agsef Conference 2023, both yesterday and today, will live here believing in that Africa. Because our daily contributions will deliver for us that Africa indeed, where every descendant is treasured. God bless you. See you again 2024 by God's grace for our next Agsef Conference. Thank you all for coming.